it? Can you dig it?
Ladies, gentlemen, friends, foes, lurkers, regulars, GMO people, organic people.
Boiler room. Inbound. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody, welcome to the show. We're live from alternatecurrentradio.com right here with the Boiler Room. This is another meeting of the Social Rejects Club. Thank you for joining us out there on YouTube, on Rockfin, on Spreaker, and later on, everybody out there on all the podcasting platforms. We appreciate you checking out the show, and especially if you were here for Tuesday's show. Also, we're doing a double banger this week, so another Boiler Room coming at you right now. That's right. alternatecurrentradio.com. That's where you can find this last Tuesday's midterm election watch anomaly Boiler Room. That's up there on the website and on all of our podcasting platforms. So welcome to the show, everybody. Let's see who we got in the Boiler Room this time around. All right. Let's say hello to everybody. Let's welcome our resident scientist, the Infidel Pharaoh, back to the show. Infidel Pharaoh, what's up, man? Welcome to the show. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having me. Great to be with you guys again. I think we had a great show on Tuesday night, and 2 Boiler Room in a week. Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. Double it up, man. Double it up. It's an important week. So we got out there. And everybody, if you missed that, we had Patrick Henningsen with us. We had CC Woods with us. And, of course, Ruckus and Infidel and Spore and myself. So we had a good time kind of breaking down what's going on from our perspective with those midterms. But, yeah, man, great to have you. And look at that. We've got rejoining us for the first time in a few weeks, the odd man out of the Oddcast. What's up, odd man? How you doing? Welcome to the show.
What it is, my man. It's good to be back. Yeah, I missed you guys.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
We
thanks
missed
for
you
joining me.
too.
Yeah, thanks for joining me today on the Brian McLean Show on TNT. Also, that was great to have you this morning, and everybody can check that out over at tntradio.live.
Thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely, dude. We'll do it again soon. All right, let's welcome Ruckus. There's a Ruckus among us, host of the Daily Ruckus, co-host of Joseph Arthur and his Technicolor Dreamcast second hour. What's up, dude? Welcome to the show.
Howdy. Thanks for having me, everybody. I'm so happy to see Odd Man out again, and I guess I'm very happy to be doing the second Boiler Room in the same week. My heart, my mind is happy. My body, undecided. But we'll sludge through this for sure and make for a decent now post midterm election Boiler Room. Let's get it on.
Yeah, post midterms. Here we go. And that leads us to the one and only, the very lovely and the curator of all things Whiskey Tango Foxtrot on the interwebs. Lovely Spore, how you doing? And welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm doing excellent and really happy to be here as usual. And yeah, it's been cool to have 2 Boiler Rooms this week. We haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into it. Let's break some ice. What do we got going tonight, Spore?
All right, this one is from our amazing Ruckus. The title of the article is Rainn Wilson changes name to Rainfall Heat Wave Extreme Winter Wilson to protest climate change. And I'm just going to let you, well, actually, before he played the clip, I'm going to read what he said in the tweet where he made this short video. In his tweet, he said, "Join me at Arctic Base Camp in bringing attention to the melting issue. We need leaders to take action at COP27. The Arctic is melting at millions of liters per second. Yet this problem can't seem to make a name for itself. So we'll make a name for it. Go to the link in my bio, and then you can play the clip."
All right, here we go.
Hi there, I'm Rainn Wilson, or should I say rainfall, heat wave, rising sea levels, and we have to do something about it now, Wilson. Sorry to get so dark so quick. You see, what happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic. As the polar caps melt, it drives up risks throughout the world including extreme weather events that affect all of us. So, as a cheap little stunt to help save planet Earth, I've changed my name on Twitter, Instagram, and even on my fancy writing paper. Acid Rain Kills Trees Wilson. Because I'm an Arctic Risk name changer, which is going to be a game changer. Our mission at Arctic Base Camp is to raise awareness of the global risks of Arctic weather change. It's not just bad news for the Arctic, but for us too. So that's why I changed my name, and you should too, to help tell the world leaders and influencers that we need to act now. So I'm reaching out to you and lots of folks in show business to change their names. We're going with Cardi, the Arctic bee melting, Jack Black, carbon is killing us,
So clever.
Typhoons are increasing, Burrell, Amy Polar bears are endangered, Harrison, why not drive an electric Ford, Samuel, Earth's getting hot as L. Jackson. It's fun. It's free. Go to arcticrisk.org and make a fun little name change. This is during the COP27 conference in Egypt, where world leaders are gathering to discuss climate, going up through and around Thanksgiving or so. This will be a fun and important change, something you can do. And oh, sorry, I got to grab this. Yeah, this is Leonardo di Polar Ice Caprios are melting. So I should grab this. Thanks.
Thanks.
Isn't that terrible? Like, it's trying to be funny and humorous, and it's just like everything falls flat.
Super cringy.
And he's not even willing to change. Ruckus, his face is in. He's not even
it was like
his
the
name. It's
worst.
just his social media names. It's just like meaningless and word salad.
It's like the worst dad joke gone wrong ever, or something maybe that the writers for Stephen Colbert would have come up with. It's so bad. That was bad.
It's so terrible.
Oh, by the way, I need to point out, and I'm going to add a visual in the Discord channel here. He mentioned extreme weather events, EWE, you like as in sheep. Bah. Aha. A bit on the nose.
Extreme weather events, sheeple. Change your name on social media for extreme weather events. This whole COP27 thing going on too, and we've got that I think California and a couple other states just passed some new sort of carbon taxes, or I don't even know what the hell it is, but they're getting people to actually vote to pull money out of their wallets for this. Also, I heard that the airlines, I don't know where this is or like what bill it is or what, but I heard that there is something being tossed around where they're saying that they're going to have an airline tax for you. So once you reach a certain amount of miles of air travel, you have to spend an extra $140 on every ticket as like a tax, like a carbon footprint tax. But guess what? It won't apply to private jets. So, and of course, Rain, he did a name change on Harrison Ford there. And as we know, Harrison Ford likes to fly his private jet up and down the California coastline to get hamburgers from, or vegan burgers. I don't know what the hell kind of burgers Han Solo's eating these days, but yeah, he'll fly his his private jet or private plane. Actually, he's a little bit cooler than some of the other rich people. I think he actually flies himself in like a kind of cool plane, but anyways, yeah. Air tax. How's that sound? Like a green tax for your air travels there, Odd Man Out. You like the sound of that? Extra $140 per ticket?
Oh yeah, just think of that as a tax, but you give it because you're a good person and you want to help the climate. COP26, that COP should be cash of the people, because we know that that's what all these different meetings and these different organizations are about, is getting tons and tons and tons of money to spend however they want, on, and say it's for the climate. It's just like the Davos meetings with all the jets and all that stuff. These guys do as I say, not as I do. And, with Rainn Wilson, it's like, you want to like the guy because, his character on The Office was so kind of likable in a nerdy way, but he's horrible. And I listened to a podcast. He's a Baha'i guy. He's like the Baha'i faith, which is like this weird new age, um, just a strange thing, a strange thing. And he's in that, and he actually does a podcast where he promotes that. Um, and they have the weirdest complexes. Like it reminds me a little bit of Scientology, but not with the space stuff. And the leader, I forget his name now, but he was just a strange guy who created this religion out of nothing a few decades ago. So that's kind of interesting too, because it's supposed to be all about peace and love. But I remember back the 2016 elections, he was ranting on Twitter. He became a lunatic. It was so bad, just like some of these other guys like Jim Gaffigan and a few of those others. So, he's I think he's a little unhinged. Even his hair looked really crazy in that video. I think he's a little bit obsessed.
Yeah, you gotta be, and it's weird, dude, because if you want to be obsessed about the climate, there's so much information that you could dive into. So it's like people like him. I don't know if it's a money thing. I don't know if there's money injected into their life to get them into doing stunts like that, or if it's just sort of a brainwashing, like an ardent brainwashing that goes on. But I talked to a gentleman today on my show, and he's telling me he's read over 20 books on climate change and this whole topic. And he brought up a couple of scientists, out of big time universities. And I'm guessing Rainn Wilson has read none of that, absolutely none of that. So, I ended up having a kind of a long discussion with his name's John O'Connor. He's actually the guy that was the lawyer for Deep Throat. So he knows, like, he does a podcast about Watergate sort of stuff, and he's written books about it. But he's also extremely interested in climate change. And I've had Jerome Corsi on a number of times lately too. So it's always interesting to see people who actually want to try to understand both sides of this issue, and then people like him that just want to push the narrative and what the hell. And as Captain Rumbucket's pointing out in the chat, the IPCC is just completely dropping the ball on a number of solar issues, volcanic issues, natural cycles of the earth and of space, in space that drive way more climate change than our stupid SUVs and all this. Like, it's all, the blame's all on us. It's all your fault, humans. You better go get a Tesla.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I've been reading about the World Wildlife Federation, and it was started by Prince Bernhard, the same guy who started Bilderberg, and Prince Philip, I believe, was his cousin or brother. And they actually have used that organization to seize lands and get deals that they wouldn't normally get. So I think that this whole green thing, I mean, I'm all, of course, for the cleanest energy we can get, and we don't want to live in a polluted world. But it's, I think, been a scam from the very start. There's people who mean well by it, but a lot of these big shots, they're part of this racket. It's a racket.
Very much so. Very much so. And look at how much policy is driven around it. Look how much money it generates. It's absolutely nuts. Ruckus, what about you, man? What do you think about Rainn Wilson there?
I don't.
You deny the climate, and you deny White Schrute's call to change your handle on social media. You deny her.
That guy, okay, he looked terrible, by the way. I'm sorry to say it.
Yeah, not the picture of health.
So I never really watched that show that he's best known for, The Office, to be honest with you. But I caught him in this like really weird I don't want to say offbeat. It was just off. There was something off about this. It was like a dark comedy, I suppose. One of those kind of things where he was like some sort of like self-grandized or proclaimed superhero, but he had like no superpowers, and it was nothing cool like Kick-Ass or anything like that. I saw that one too. I'm not sure if you caught this one, Hesher, but it was just so freaking awful, and there was something so weird about that flick that I just associated him with that movie, because that happens sometimes where like a role or a character will stick with somebody, and I'm sure that he's probably got that stigma of that character from The Office that you just mentioned, but I wouldn't see that, but I could see how a lot of people see that. So I wonder what like the owners of that being said, the creators of like intellectual property such as fictional characters in series like television or movies, when the actors who are then, usually when they're out in public, chances are they're not going to be like, "Hey, what's up? It's Rainn Wilson." They're going to say, "It's Dwight from The Office." You know what I mean? So how do the creators of these characters feel it when these characters, their creations, basically, technically in a way, guilty by association, are out there doing this kind of like propaganda baloney? I mean, I'm just curious sometimes, but so he's got this clever little thing where you're going to change your name in the name of climate change. So I'm very curious what you guys, if you could come up with one for yourselves, what would it be? But maybe not in the name of climate change, because screw all that. What would our cause be in the name of like fighting the mainstream cartel, the propaganda nonsense, right? What do you think? Mine would be like something like this, like Adam Clark Kent is a fictional character, so there's no such thing as Superman, and he ain't gonna come save your ass from these lying a-holes. So wake the F up. That's my name on my name tag.
There you go. That's perfect. I like it. We're gonna need to get you a big name tag for that one. All right, Infidel, what do you make of that? What do you make of Rainn Wilson here? You're gonna change your handle in the chat. You can change it to Infidel bathing in acid rain. Pharaoh.
The only thing I'm gonna change is I'll change my name too. I'm not listening to this crap. It's interesting though, like, and I don't know how many of you know this, but that whole carbon footprint campaign, just from some history, just to show how stupid people are. That was actually a campaign paid for by British Petroleum. They hired people back in 2004 to come up with basically a marketing campaign to just start like getting attention away from them after that oil spills and all that crap. Do you remember all the pollution they did back then?
Oh yeah,
the big oil spill. So they came up with this campaign to really start getting people feeling guilty about themselves, and it was brilliant. So they came up with this carbon footprint calculator, and guess what? Since then, if you look at Shell and ExxonMobil and all those companies with the billions of dollars they're actually collecting to fight for this climate change, believe it or not, oil companies are on the forefront of that. And with this airfare, whatever footprint they are doing is like basically finding a bunch of morons that just basically bought into this crap, and they cornered themselves into like submission for the sin they were born with, which is, being humans and living on Earth, and eating farting cows, and riding their nasty old car instead of those electric cars that is still being powered by electricity produced from coal, which they don't have, like states like California don't have anyway. But yeah, so they build that campaign, they get the suckers to buy into it, and they just, again, the same way the pharma did with the vaccines and the pharmaceuticals, they put you in the middle of it, and they're going to suck you dry for the name of climate change. And guess what? They're making billions out of you. Like,
Yep.
John Kerry is flying around the world making billions of dollars from this climate crap.
Al Gore, so many
Al
people.
Gore, Bill Gates, Moses Obama, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's take something. You remember the campaign for the polar bears? Like, was this guy was like saying, like, save the Arctics, and
You're gonna kill, they're gonna kill all the polar bears.
do you know that the actually polar bear numbers now is the highest, like, I think since 1973.
Yeah.
So again, like I really hope that just people just like wake up for how this whole corporate multinational corporations made them, and billionaires made them in the center of that, like they made them their piggy pegs, and they just basically trying on them all those marketing campaigns, and they're just buying into it, and you're just right in the cycle. So
Yeah. What a weak pitch too. That whole like, oh, we're gonna change our Instagram handles and our Twitter handles. That doesn't do anything. That doesn't. You think changing, even if Rainn Wilson and every other so-called superstar elite Hollywood actor he called out there did that it would influence anyone with power? That whole concept, like, oh, we're all gonna do this. If we all do it, well, we'll just be, everyone with influence. We can make a change. Like, what the fuck is this change? You're actually, there's not a single action item there. It's just a giant groupthink virtue signal to support a bogus narrative. Yeah, like Flippy Hambone says, climate activism is the easiest superficial virtue badge. There's no action item. There's never a freaking action item except give us your money and be afraid and be ridiculous. And when I was talking to John earlier today, he brought up Paul Ehrlich's book from 1968. This is one of the nexus points of all this, everybody. It's called The Population Bomb, and it's a total shit show. That book is a total shit show. It predicted worldwide famine due to overpopulation, as well as other major societal upheavals, and advocates for immediate action to limit population growth. How about that? So they go, this is the nexus of some of the eugenic lies that we're exposed to now. And this book,
well,
very alarmist.
Is he going to be able to have a blue check mark with his new name?
Hell yeah.
Well, I mean, how do you have a blue check mark if your ID doesn't show?
No, you can get one now. Musk destroyed that. There's no more blue checks on Twitter, baby. You pay $8 and you get verified on Twitter right now.
Right, but don't you have to show verification that that's your name?
Nope. You just pay $8 and then you get the mark.
Yeah,
although he will ban you permanently if you're impersonating someone else. And
if you don't have parody.
If you don't specify that you're a parody.
Yeah.
Because a bunch of people went out there trolling like mad today or yesterday. It was hilarious. Did you see the thread between the Bush and Blair?
Yeah.
No, I did not see that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah.
I miss killing Iraqis, Bush said.
I know he banned what's the name of the ugly fucking woman? Kathy
Griffin.
Mora. Yeah, that one. Like, cause she impersonated them.
She was using her I think she was using her deceased mother's account or something like that.
Oh, she has a mother?
I think her mother passed, and she used her dead mother's account to troll.
I thought she was born from a tree. So I went to this dude website.
Out of a coffin or something.
Yeah. So I went to that dude website, arcticrisk.org, and I'm looking at his global risks, destructive extreme weather and coastal crisis, and he's talking about the climate change and the extreme weather, and then no mention about cloud seedings and weather modification programs and the impact of that on actual storms, right? Which again, if you're talking about extreme weather crisis, right? Hey, can this has to do with anything? And then the second piece is trade and supply chain disruption. He's trying to blame supply chain disruption on climate change. How about any of the COVID policies caused any supply chain disruptions?
Yeah, or the economic policies or the sanctions or Yeah,
and it's just a bunch of baloney. So go to his, and then he has this countdown CO2 budget depletion calculator. I guess 6 years, 8 months, 11 days, and 14 hours and 17 seconds. I guess that's the end of when our CO2 budget will deplete.
Yeah, I know. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I can't believe we live in a world where we may get treated with the same treatment as we did over the virus for climate change. I mean, what I don't even know what to say. I mean, if we as a society, as a globe, accept climate lockdowns and climate taxes in the face of so much information that runs counter to that narrative, I don't even know what to say. We're screwed. that's the last straw of lockdowns, odd man out. I don't think I could take it anymore. They give us climate lockdowns after all that and people buy it. Oh boy, we're lost and gone forever.
Oh, true. So true. We'll have to live underground. We'll have to start digging tunnels and just
Yeah,
have our underground world, total
turn into
dystopian nightmare.
mole people.
It's crazy, and you mentioned Tony Blair. I just wanted to say quickly, I noticed the other day he's on the board of directors of the ADL for some reason, just like a weird partners. But yeah, it's crazy too. You go back to what was that group, the Club of Rome? They've been big on climate change, and I don't know a lot about them, but they seem like European technocrats and kind of these scientific dictator types. And I think that Maurice Strong was somebody mentioned him in the chat. He was huge. I think he was Al Gore's mentor. And that guy owned like this, I think it was like almost 200-acre ranch somewhere out in the Midwest, I think it was, or maybe it was actually in Arizona. And there's some bizarre stories about that. It turned into some kind of like weird new agey place, and they had a guru living on it. I don't know if they still do or not. And all these like bigwigs were going out there and doing these weird, I don't know if they're rituals or whatever, but really strange stuff, man. And that was a scam. Like, Al Gore and Maurice Strong figured out the carbon credit thing, and Al Gore, Maurice Strong was an oil man. I forget he worked for a Canadian oil company, and I don't remember the name, but that's how he got into it. So he found out something that would make more money for him than
That's right,
actually
than
being in the
oil.
fossil fuel
Mhm.
industry. That's it's crazy. It's a racket.
Oh yeah, it is a racket. It's just full of rich eugenicists. It's actually pretty crazy when you start. Like I'm just kind of flipping through some of the information on Paul Ehrlich, his book, The Population Bomb here, and it's just like, boom. There's David Brower. There's the Sierra Club. There's Ian Ballantine. Population Crisis Committee, General William H. Draper. And it just kind of goes into just all this crazy stuff. I don't know. It's really weird to it's very Malthusian. You know what I mean? This is all very Malthusian, sort of neo-Malthusian prediction, LARPing fan dystopian science fan fiction. And we're living it.
Yeah, and there's a weird, there's so many weird elements to it. It's not just the money-making scheme, but there's also this weird kind of, you see it time and time again. It's almost like this Gaia worship type of deal with a lot of these guys. I don't know what the deal is, but like, it's a lot of money involved in all the aspects of it. And, they want to get rid of private property. They've been pretty open about that. Like you mentioned, the Sierra Club and WWF and these different organizations, man, they work hand in hand with the United Nations. And even though some of those things those treaties and different things they have aren't binding, some are. And people like leaders like Joe Biden, they'll agree to that stuff, So we got to really pay attention to some of this stuff that's going on, because like you said, these climate lockdowns, they have that in mind. I guarantee you in the future, we'll see them try to do that.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's going to happen by de facto if they keep messing with our finances and our fuel. You're just going to not be able to go anywhere because you won't be able to get any, you won't be able to afford gas. You won't be able to get gas. There won't be any steaks at the store anyway, just bugs. You may as well go in your backyard and pick worms instead of going to the store and buying lab created bugs. Listen to this. So in 1968, again, Ehrlich writes in that book, Population Bomb, quote, I don't see how India could possibly feed 200 million more people by 1980. End quote. This view was widely held at the time, as another statement of his later in the book, quote, I have yet to meet anyone familiar with the situation who thinks that India will be self-sufficient in food by 1971. Okay, well, as of 2010, India had almost 1.2 billion people, having nearly tripled its population from around 400 million in 1960. And this is much like Al Gore, much like the fuel scarcity of the 70s stuff, that stuff that Infidel was mentioning from BP. By the way, that campaign, they spent $100 million. BP spent $100 million on that campaign. That's may sound like a lot of money to the five of us and to you out there listening, but to BP, it ain't crap. It ain't crap. And the same thing goes with Pfizer and all these big pharma companies. They can drop $100 million on a campaign. What about Bill Gates, Ruckus? You think Bill Gates can drop $100 million here or there, maybe into a media outlet or something like that?
What kind of a? Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. Good point. Speaking of people with books and the climate, y'all heard what Greta Thunberg's been doing lately?
Oh, she's anti-capitalist.
Dude, I
now,
heard
right?
a little bit.
This is interesting because that dude there, Rain, what's his freaking new name now? What do we call this guy?
Just call
Rainfall.
him Rain Wilson. That all that other shit is fake, anyways. Rain, you're not fooling anybody with
Rain.
that.
Rainfall, heat wave, extreme winter, Wilson.
Yeah, yeah. Rain, go away, Wilson. So he mentioned that climate summit that's going on right now in Egypt. He called it COP27, COP27. I don't know exactly what that stands for. But you had a bunch of people there, including the aforementioned Mr. Polar Bears himself, Gore, was there. Quite a number of big people were there, except notably absent Miss Greta Thunberg. She refuses to go. That's why she wasn't there. She calls the summit a scam, and it's what she calls greenwashing, an attempt by politicians to falsely portray themselves as environmentally friendly. So she thinks all of these things and these people and these organizations are fake. That's very funny coming from her. But regardless, she said this not that long ago. She's on a book tour. She's got a new book about the climate called The Climate Book. So
sounds original.
Yeah, I know, right? But she's making this argument. I guess this is where a few outlets, including RT, picked this up, that she's blaming capitalism for climate change, I suppose, and something about racism that was really interesting. She said the extraction of fossil fuels is racist. I So she's doing her own thing now, I guess. I think Greta's off the she's gone AWOL. She's off the Klaus path. She's doing her own thing now. She's gone.
Perhaps.
Hey, those pages better be recycled paper, dude.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah, those better be like recycled from Prius tires or something like that, or Tesla steering wheels. I'm not sure. Yeah, I tend to think that is a possibility, Ruckus, but I kind of wonder if maybe her handlers, managers, those people, ghostwriter for her book, if they don't need to keep her on sort of the bleeding edge of the whole climate extremism, because after the whole shenanigans of, her rise to fame in, what was that, 2017, 18, 19, I'm not sure exactly. It's almost like the gag was up, everybody in the alternative media and independent media called her out and said, okay, it took us a minute, but we figured out where your funding is, who your relatives are. We know you're in with the whole globalist crowd. So it doesn't look very rebellious anymore. So let's have her. And the other thing she's doing there is she's greenwashing the term greenwashing. She's actually subverting the term greenwashing. That I guess one could apply that to fake, politicians and Fortune 100s and oil companies and banking companies faking that they care about the climate. I guess that's one thing, but it's very like, that's actually happened to farmers over many years that are dealing with, large corporations like Whole Foods owned by Jeff Bezos and stuff. And a lot of the products that you buy, there's a whole set of mommy bloggers and other people, health people on Instagram and other platforms, and they police greenwashing. So they'll show you like, 5 products that you would normally pick up at your grocery store that you think are natural, organic, or safe, and they'll tell you who actually owns it and which which ingredients in it are toxic. Like, to me, that's what real greenwashing is. It's more at a grassroots level, and Greta's trying to take it to this sort of like, political level. Like, she's above the politicians now. She's kind of taken that how dare you teenager angst into the 19-year-old incarnation of herself, and she looks like, maybe they will elect her to be the new prince or princess of XR and just stop oil. Maybe, who knows, maybe there's a new career lateral move here for her.
She's an extremist, Hesher. I mean, she is absolutely okay. Here's some of her, like, I mean, there's even a picture here with her like her arm raised in like almost like a Nazi looking salute. In my opinion, it's hilarious to me. But she said, this is her own words: "If economic growth is our only priority." Sorry, let me do my best, Greta. If economic growth is our only priority, then what we are experiencing now should be exactly what we should be expecting. How dare you? No, she didn't say
How
that.
dare you?
That's
How
pretty
dare
good.
you?
But she says the capitalist system is defined by colonialism, imperialism, oppression, and genocide by the so-called global north to accumulate wealth that still shapes our current world order. Yeah, so that's your Greta Thunberg impression
There
right
she
there.
is.
But
Look at-
the thing is, she never. There's another one. Oh wow, dude!
all
I'm
those
looking
masks.
at a completely different image. Look at this. See, these kids are little. Yeah, dude, this is crazy. This could be more dangerous than the Cop 27 and Rain Go Away Wilson's little name badge crap. By the way, she's heavily involved with all of these extremist groups, including that one we've been hearing about in the news all the time. Just Stop Oil. I've been reading a lot of articles about those wackos, and I've heard in cross relation that she's like considered a co-founder. Did she create that group? I'm not sure. She's somehow associated with it. Her name comes up. And right now, those wackos have been gluing themselves to basically the highway on the M25. It's the UK's busiest motorway. They're just like gluing themselves to the freaking highway now. So,
Yeah, someone missed their father's funeral because of that. I saw today somebody was super upset because he was trying to get to his father's funeral, and these half-wits glued themselves to the road. Just yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Infidel.
No, I'm just. There's a whole thing about Greta Thunberg. I think it's actually disgusting that they take an autistic, depressed kid and do this to her. Actually, I actually feel bad for her, because actually, if you look at her history, I think number one, she's diagnosed by autism. She was very depressed, and they just used her. They just used her, and they made her that figure. And then, and I think it's honestly disgusting. So anyway, so I just out of curiosity, I looked up what's her net worth, and I guess her net worth is $2 million. So I'm wondering, how did Greta make $2 million?
Oh, well, she gets paid to do this stuff, I suppose.
I don't know, man.
What else can we say? Her family's rich also. Like, she's got all these like what, I don't even have the list in front of me, but it's like singers, actors, politicians, bankers, that kind of family,
Yeah. So I'm reading a quote from her mom saying, she saw what the rest of us did not want to see. It was as if she could see our CO2 emission with her naked eye.
I remember
Maybe
that
she has
one.
a superpower.
I
Maybe she has a
remember that
superpower.
one. Yeah, we ripped on that one for a minute back when she said that. It's all so ridiculous. It's all absolutely so ridiculous. Like Greta, we see exactly what you're doing here, and it's gonna. I don't know.
I would
Your
say
target audience.
shame on her handlers. Let's
Yeah,
put it
yeah.
this way.
You know what? Their target audience is dumb enough to buy all this garbage, though, and there's even, believe it or not, some adults out there like Acid Rain Wilson, Acid Psyop Rain Wilson.
She was, I guess, she was just protesting in Germany during that conference. She didn't go, as you guys said, and she was basically protesting against the Egyptian government, saying like, requesting from the Egyptian government to release all the political prisoners they have unconditionally, just to release all the political prisoners.
Because she's such an expert in geopolitics and weather.
Yeah, she is, man.
Yeah, we all need to listen to Greta. Yeah. So COP27, Egypt hosting COP27, United Nations Climate Change Conference this year. So yeah, that's what that's all about, everybody. If you're wondering what this COP27 thing is, just a waste of time and money. Another waste of time and money. You know, I mean,
It's
what are they going
cop out, according to Greta? Get it?
Yes, where the cop out.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, Odd Man, it's really interesting, dude. I just looked up this. Like, I'm like, what the fuck Blair has to do with ADL? I guess you're right. He's on their board, and basically, like, I was reading his bio in the ADL, and he established the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change to work on some of the most difficult challenges in the world today, believing that real leadership has never been more necessary or more difficult. Currently, teams from Mr. Blair Institute are directly supporting leaders across the globe in their fight against COVID-19, delivering analysis and advice to help countries mitigate their economic impact, to harness the power of technology, and to better position themselves for the rebuilding to come. Like,
so if you support these horrible wars and you're a Fabian socialist who writes books about Fabian socialism, you fit in perfectly with that. But that's not even what they're supposed to be, about. So all these organizations are getting involved and jumping on the climate bandwagon. It's insane.
It's crazy.
It's free money. It's free money from the people. It's free money, free power. You're literally charging the population, taxing the population, and enslaving the minds of the youth of the population with a series of bullshit eugenicist lies. Free money.
He's another one too. I can't remember the name of the organization, but he's got another one of those. He's got one of those tax exempt organizations, Tony Blair, that's makes a killing. So, same old thing, man. All these guys, they start those foundations and they launder money through there.
It's also, there's another aspect we need to think about, guys, is actually how they use that for political gain too. Like, I was just looking at the statistics, and that the Dems won like the Zoomers 18 to 29 by 28%. That's like the brainwashing. The brainwashing is deep, and that's how they get them to.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my TNT news producers about that today or yesterday. I can't remember. I think it was today. I was talking to John Matlin about that, and those numbers are pretty stark. I was texting back and forth with Chief Jordan too, and yeah, that is scary. That's the kind of, and I remember how I remember the talking points when, like, we were young voters, like 18 to 20 something or whatever. Think back to it, and yeah, they were doing the climate thing to us too. They were pushing the climate alarmism big time in the early 90s, mid 90s. They were doing then it was all global warming, right? I think that's the brand that we got was global warming and acid rain. You remember all those, Ruckus? What else? What are they talking?
The ozone hole was the big one.
Oh, the ozone hole, yeah, that was a big one when I was growing up.
Yeah, and okay, and what a load of crap. Let me tell you something right there. Okay, and this is actually something that Bill Cooper was big about you can catch some of those old Hour of the Time episodes, and he talked about the climate change ozone hoax. The ozone hoax is what he called it. Okay, so ozone, by the way. Okay, you guys ever, what it smells like just before or after it rains? There's this unique smell. That's ozone, and you can buy like these little ozone generators. I have one in my room somewhere. I can't reach it right now, or I'd show you. But when electricity passes through water molecules, it generates ozone. That's why you smell that during rainstorms, electrical storms, right? The lightning passing through the little water droplets, the moisture in the air. That's ozone. Okay, so ozone is constantly being created, and it smells and it freshens, and it will get rid of all of the bad toxins and smells and stuff, right? It's like nature's cleansing thing, right? And it's 3 oxygen single, because there's O is oxygen, right? But usually it's paired up as an O2, like the oxygen we breathe is O2 version, right? And water molecules are H2O. So when the electricity passes through it, it splits off these molecules, and 3 of the oxygens, the O's, come together to create O3, which is ozone. So also he was pointing out, Bill Cooper pointed out, by the way, that this concept of a layer, or a hole in the layer is garbage. There's no such thing. There's no physical layer that's physically missing a hole. What was called the ozone layer was just an area where these early climate scientists were like taking their tests and their data from, and they just kept going back to the same place over and over again. And so that's their sample data area. So when they refer to it, it's more of like a metaphorical assigned label term than this actual concept that so many of us have in our head, that there's like this actual thing around the planet known as an ozone layer. No such thing. No such thing. None whatsoever. So go prove that for yourself. That alarm was reminding me I got to go do my TNT Joseph Arthur and the Dreamcast thing. So I will be back, hopefully, if you guys are still doing this.
All right, man. All right. Say hi to Joseph for us, and we'll catch you on the combat landing if we're still here when you're done, man. Have a good show.
Oh, I imagine you guys will still be doing it. Yeah, I have faith. I have faith. All right. Hopefully, I'll be talking to you guys again soon. If not, God bless each and every one of you, and may God save this republic. Ruckus out.
All right. Ruckus
Cheers, dude.
is out. Okay. Let's see here. Flippy Hambone has it in the YouTube chat there. Hairspray killed the ozone. You remember that, Spore? Remember when it was all about your Aquanet? They would tell us that
It was all about, hairspray and driving your vehicle and not throwing your tin cans in the, I don't know, they used to have, do you guys remember, like, I mean, I'm sure some of you guys do, but like when recycling started, it was like all the like Campbell soup cans would be like thrown to a specific spot. Like it was all about the soup cans. And then it moved on to like when we started getting like the plastic bottles involved and all, like, and then the separate one for the glass and then the one for the papers. And it was just like all these bins, like
they're like gremlins. They just started multiplying.
Yeah. It was like a huge thing in my junior high. It was just like all of a sudden it was like I went from 6th grade to 7th grade, and all of a sudden I'm like, there are so many places that I have to pick for trash.
And it's all bullshit too, for the most part. You talk to waste management people in California. We're talking about when we were kids in California. I've talked to waste management people there. I asked them where all that stuff goes. I read all the numbers on the bottom of these things, and it was just like, yeah, that goes in the same place. Yeah, that goes in the same place. And I was like, wait a minute. I had a Starbucks thing with me, right? It's got 3 pieces. It's got the cup itself, it's got the cardboard heat sleeve, and the plastic top. I was like, so this goes in this bin, this goes in this bin, this goes in this bin, and then what? And it's like, they all go to the same place.
Yeah, it's like all these different bins that actually create more like material, because you have to have different bins to separate this stuff, when in reality, from my understanding, it's all going to the same place. And in fact, like for a long time, it was just a dump that was being like bought. I mean, a lot of the trash from the United States was being sold to China for, very little money. But they eventually were like, your trash it's too trashy. We're not taking it anymore.
That's right. That's right. I remember we covered that. We did a big expose on that. Well, we were covering a big expose on that, and we got interested and we started looking around. We found a whole bunch of stuff about that back in like early Boiler Room days, like 2017 or 16 or something like that. And it was pretty, I don't know. It was so weird afterward. It was like, wow. So you guys are basically polluting third world countries or the poorest part of, Eurasian countries and Asian countries, and destroying islands, and you're making us sit here. You're applying all this, social shame, like on everybody, just like, social shame, social shame. You guys blew out the ozone hole. You guys are driving all these cars. You're causing acid rain. Oceans are gonna rise. And no. Yeah, you got to separate all the stuff. You take those three pieces, put them in three different bins. Maybe next week you'll have 6 bins instead of the 3 that you had before, and it all just gets slammed up, garbaged up, sent, some in the Philippines somewhere or something like that. I don't know. It's a big giant scam, and you can trace it all back to these people that we're talking about here that have, like Paul Ehrlich and Maurice Strom and all these people. And this is really easy information to find. You're not a denier for learning this stuff, are you, Odd Man Out? It's your right to deny something or reject something, right? It's part of your First Amendment right and all that.
Absolutely, man. And I think that if unless it was just somebody who put something that wasn't true, I think in that population bomb book, he's got a quote in there about possible future forced abortions. I'm not sure if he uses the term abortion, but it's something like that. Now, I can't say for sure, but I've read that he had that in there, kind of like throwing that out as a future idea. But I remember probably 10 years or more ago, I had been recycling. I would just throw my plastic bags in with the plastic containers, that you recycle. And I went to this Earth Day thing once with my kids, and they had like a little tent set up. It's the local place that does the recycling and trash and all that. And I can't remember how this came up. I asked the lady something, and anyway, we got to talking, and she said, "No, you can't recycle your plastic bags at our recycling center. We don't do that." I said, "Are you kidding me? I've been throwing those away or
Hmm.
putting those in the plastic recycling for 10 years at least." And, nobody's ever told me not to put them in there. Any given time I go, there's hundreds and hundreds of plastic bags in that thing still to this day. And she's like, "No, we don't recycle those. We're not supposed to do that. You can take those to grocery stores." So the very next day, or maybe like 2 days later, I went to the convenience center and I asked the guy there, I was like, are we not supposed to throw our, plastic bags in the recycling? He's like, just do whatever. That was his. I could tell that he wanted to say something to me, but he didn't tell me. It's the same guy I always see there. So, but and just something kind of connected to this. It may not have been blamed on global warming. It may be one of those few things that hasn't been, but it certainly was blamed on pollution.
Mm.
But the Great Barrier Reef, they've scared the crap out of my kids a few years ago, saying it was disappearing and it was going to cause all this havoc. And now you read from a bunch of different websites, like even futurism.com. I saw one of their articles, how the Great Barrier Reef's made this miraculous comeback. So the polar bears are okay. The Great Barrier Reef's okay. The ozone layer is okay. So I
Yeah.
think we're going to be all right.
Yeah. If you go back to Al Gore's movie and his book, by now, California should be underwater. At least parts of California should be underwater. They're not. They keep doing this stuff. Let me read you something right here. This is out of that same book, and this goes to what you're talking about. Out of the population bomb here, 1968. If anyone's just joining us, you're listening to the Boiler Room at Alternate Current Radio. And we're talking about the population bomb here, how this relates to all this. So this is a Stanford University professor wrote this piece of junk in 1968, the population bomb. Here is a quote from it. What needs to be done? We must rapidly bring the world population under control, reducing the growth rate to zero or making it negative. Conscious regulation of human numbers must be achieved. Simultaneously, we must at least temporarily greatly increase our food production. End quote for that particular part. But check this out. Ehrlich described a number of ideas on how these goals might be reached. He believed that the United States should take a leading role in population control, both because it was already consuming much more of the rest of the world, more than the rest of the world was, and therefore had a moral duty to reduce its impact. And because the U.S. would have to lead international efforts due to its prominence in the world, in order to avoid charges of hypocrisy or racism, it would have to take the lead in population reduction efforts. And Ehrlich floats the idea of adding temporary sterilants to the water supply or to staple foods. However, he rejects the idea as unpractical due to criminal inadequacy of biomedical research in this area. He suggests a tax scheme in which additional children would add to a family's tax burden and increasing rates for more children, as well as luxury taxes on childcare goods. He suggests incentives for men who agree to permanent sterilization before they have 2 children, as well as a variety of other monetary incentives. He proposes a powerful Department of Population and Environment, which should be set up with the power to take whatever steps are necessary to establish a reasonable population size in the United States and to put an end to the steady deterioration of our environment. And this department should support research into population control, including mass sterilization agents and prenatal sex discernment, because families often continue to have children until a male is born. And he suggested that if they choose a male child, this would reduce the birth rate. Talking about legislation guaranteeing the right to an abortion and sex education, all this kind of stuff. Basically, it's like looking at, creating this triage system and forcing people into population decline. And if someone really wanted to decline the population, anybody looked around recently? Like there's a number of like confluent things happening right now that, arguably are decreasing the population.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because 2 things. Number one, if they really care about population decreasing population in this nation, why are they importing all those like low income illegals and immigrants from all over the world that they have no idea about actually the birth control, and they multiply like rabbits? Not but it's reality. People with low income, people from the Middle East, from those parts of I'm from the Middle East myself before someone called me racist. They just like multiply, man. They don't have like any issues there. So if they really care about that, why they keep bringing people in that don't care about this? 2, did they ever see the result of the China experiment of one child policy and how they reversed that back in 2016 after this disastrous policy? It's stupid. Every time anybody think about this, like controlling population, you're going to get a population decline that will drive great impact on your economy and your country. There's just no brain, unless they do want to do population replacement. So is their idea is to let's just sterilize people of this nation and just replace them with immigrants and people from other parts of the world. Maybe that's their agenda. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I feel like all the poor immigrants, when they come over, they're going to get as sterilized as the rest of us because they're going to be eating the same food supply, breathing the same air, getting jabbed with the same garbage, if they want to maintain getting their checks. But I mean, it sure does. Kill a lot of birds with a lot of stone, with just one stone there, get everybody fighting amongst each other, helps ruin the economy, helps open up that psychotic drug trade that is now our number one killer. This whole fentanyl thing going on. I mean, it- you know,
Yeah, but that campaign is more toward educated
yeah,
class. This
right,
is this main campaign is against that.
yeah. Well, I guess that's what I'm getting at. It's like we're under like a hybrid warfare situation, like hybrid cultural warfare, hybrid medical warfare, hybrid weapons of mass migration warfare and propaganda warfare. It's like our food supply, food, fuel, finance, they're all under attack right now, and they all kind of lead to, uh, you know, a population decline, or at the very least, yeah, you add the jib jabs in there, we're looking at decline. It's just straight up, and the numbers are going negative all over the place right now. And the other demographic that I was reading about today that played a big part in the way that some of the voting went, where it was above board, where it's not been tossed into the dubious category, Arizona and others,
Hmm.
is unmarried women.
Yep.
Unmarried single women seem to vote in mass for Democrat, and married women, it was like it's just a complete difference. It was so weird to see that statistic. It was like,
Yeah.
whoa, okay, so this is all getting very real here now that everybody's politically active.
It's crazy, man. They again they bought into this stupid abortion like narrative, and that's why those unmarried women are voting there. They- and honestly, I spoke with so many people; they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Number one, by the way, just to put it out there, I'm actually pro-choice, but at the same time, I'm against like late-term abortions. Why would you kill a baby that is older than 20 freaking weeks? At that point of time, that baby is fully developed, and,
Yeah,
and you are killing a human at that point of time.
I think we had 3 states,
And
add that on the table murder thing. I can't even call that abortion if, a kid survives the
exactly, I don't call
process.
it abortion at that point of.
It's
And
not.
if you are so reckless that you have to wait until 20 weeks to make that decision, I'm sorry, there is something wrong in your head.
Okay, so we can agree that eugenics is absolutely fucking real and absolutely full on right now. In Canada, you can go up and just say, "Hey, my whatever hurts," and they'll say, "Oh, would you like to step into the fucking suicide pod here? Let me check your insurance and see if you have enough." Yeah, what do you know, sir? You do have enough money to step into the suicide pod. I heard oh my god, yeah, I was talking to someone from Canada recently, and she was telling me about that, and I was like, wow, that's really a thing now, right? And it's like, yep, they just want you to kill yourself, kill yourself with big pharma, kill yourself with a suicide pod in Canada, or you have so many options of how you can do it, and they're just promoting all this shit, and of course all the culture jamming is anti-family. It's all targeting family. It's making young people think family sucks and it's the worst thing in the world, and makes, you know, I don't know. It's all very population downward spirally to me looking there, guys. I don't
Mhm.
know.
So here is a tweet from Biden like a few hours ago. I want to thank the young people of this nation who voted in historic numbers again, just as you did 2 years ago. You voted to continue addressing the climate crisis, gun violence, your personal rights and freedoms, and student debt relief. Thank you for making your voices heard. There you go.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Get used to that boot on the neck. I hope you enjoy it, because that's where that all leads to. You should read some history books. You should check out Mao and Stalin and all that shit. But they don't do that stuff in school anymore, do they, odd man? You got to teach your own kids. You gotta go like a homeschool parent, to be able to teach your kids how to protect themselves against a fascistic, communistic government that is in bed with a death cult of mRNA Spitters.
Oh yeah, man, it's crazy. And I was looking through I'm helping my kid with the history project right now, and even though he's doing this like it's like half the week homeschool, half the week going to school type thing, and like even in like I was reading the part about South Africa and how the Brits colonized it, and it didn't even mention Cecil Rhodes one time, and I'm like, they named Rhodesia after him, which is now I think Zimbabwe. But I mean, it's so much is left out of history. It's just no wonder people are so stupid, and even the kind of cookie cutter stuff they teach people, and I'm to blame as well because I forgot nearly everything I learned, but most people just forget, except for like the main things, George Washington and, Thomas Jefferson and a few of these things they'll remember. But it's pitiful. We've really, really been dumbed down, and they don't teach people very important things. Like I meant to mention this a second ago, but like if they were really, really worried about feeding people back in the day and how people were going to starve because of the population, why wouldn't they have not made it an absolute must in the school curriculums to teach kids how to plant food and harvest food? You know, because that's something you need, everyone needs, or even to dig a well, or some of these things, even hunt. I mean, I know we used to have hunter safety and everything like that, but it's just crazy. So it's anti-human. Their policies are anti-human. They don't want people to be born. They don't want to teach people how to take care of themselves. They'd rather just decrease the population. And it's really sad to just the way things have come down. And I know I probably mentioned this before, but I swear you could, if you sat down, you could probably draw a line to, I'd say 75% of the political policies that you could connect to depopulation, whether it's the jabs or all these various things. It seems to be something that, even though they don't talk about it in the almost quasi-religious way that they used to in most circles, that I think it's still one of their most important beliefs to them. They want to downsize the world. And like you're talking about propaganda, just like the new Game of Thrones, I guess it's House of Dragons, with the queen, or I guess she's not the queen yet, or wasn't, but I think she had like 2 miscarriages, or no, her mom died of miscarriage or something like that, and then she had one, and it was horribly bloody scenes where these women were in horrible pain, and these dead babies come out or whatnot. And it's like, it's so obvious to me that they're putting in some of these propaganda to make women, especially young women, not want to get pregnant and think this thing is, oh, this could be the most horrible experience ever. I don't want to do this.
Right. You're right. That's been a common culture jam for some time now, and it's just getting like more and more intense. Absolutely more intense. Um, listen to this one, man. This is sort of tangentially related when it comes to culture jamming and trying to get people to, trying to indoctrinate children, and steer them away from any sort of traditional viewpoint. Listen to this. This is playing this off of You Keep the Change on IG. Shout out to them. This was a good post. Well, no, it's terrible. Terrible. It's a horrible post, but we got to hear it.
Let me say this. Drag queens, not only are they not hurting our kids, drag queens make everything better. Drag queens are fun. Drag queens are entertainment. And you know what I'll say that was totally not poll tested? I say this, a drag queen for every school. That is what would be fun for kids and lift them up when they are having emotional issues.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Michigan's Democrat Attorney General right there, apparently. Wow. So I mean, look at the divide on that particular topic when it comes to parents and schools. It's just like, that is such an extreme viewpoint compared to people that don't want that in their schools. Like, where how do you possibly compromise when that is like the extreme opinion of attorney generals and school board members, and then they have parents there that are like, wait a minute, how did we get here? WTF? No, this isn't going to work.
You know, they need to flood other people because that's somebody's fantasy. A drag queen, that's somebody's fantasy. I knew a guy, I used to be a good friends with the guy who would do that on the weekends, and he was straight, but or at least he said he was, but I mean, he got a lot of chicks, so I think he was. But it was his hobby, right? It's just insane. People should flood flood these areas with their hobby. Say, okay, you're gonna like mainstream that, then mainstream my weird hobby.
Yeah.
Fairness has to be fair. I think I posted this on the Instagram, but a local brewery here, they put an ad on their Instagram, and it said like our local mayor Glenn Jacobs, he's trying to make it to where they can't have all age drag shows, which I totally agree with. And it said in there, please like call the mayor and let your representatives know the importance of drag in our community. And I was like, the importance of drag in your community. That's a term that should never be uttered because it's somebody's hobby. There's nothing important about it. Like anything that like somebody's dressing up in a costume, and that's what it is. There's nothing important about it, but everything today has to be important and it has to be all about like pulling your heartstrings and you're being bullied if you can't live out your fantasy and be publicly supported by your government and 3/4 of the people. You know what I mean? It's total insanity.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Infidel, what do you make of that one, man? Michigan, huh? Michigan, that's the government you want right there. That's an elected official. Are you kidding me?
It's disgusting, man. But I saw in this election really a good trend. There is a lot of moms actually running for offices now because they're just sick of the shit being pushed on their kids and running
Yeah.
through school boards.
Yep.
And I would just people have to take control of it, especially after after our DOJ just labeled all of them as domestic terrorists for speaking against critical race theory and drag queens. So
Right. I wonder if they label their GOP candidates the same way, because now those people are all starting to say these things.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's
fairness and all.
it just has to stop. It's disgusting, man. It's and there's no reason for it. It's just sick. It's just mentally sick people.
Yeah.
Even I know, even I've seen videos for some drag people that just were against this. Like, why would I go do this in front of a child unless I'm a sick person that deep inside me I'm a freaking pedophile? This is the only reason why you would go and do this in front of kids.
They keep finding people in that crowd that are felons that have felony records for stuff that I don't know, man. It makes me think that's one of those things where I just think, all right, the world's just gone too far. This is the thing we have to argue about. We are way too far gone. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, it labels the entire U.S. population. Like people, the world look at us right now here in U.S. And I spoke with people in Egypt, spoke with people overseas. I'm like what's happening in US? Like, why is this shit happening? And it's making them thinking that the entire population think this way. They don't realize that this is just small minority, but this shit is just being pushed everywhere. But it's giving us a bad reputation all over.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. What do you think, God man? We don't need to stick on this one. I just wanted to play that clip because I think it's interesting, just the level of culture jamming that we're dealing with, when it comes, because like you were saying, what made me think of it, you were talking about all this stuff leading back to eugenics and stuff. And I think it all leads back. There's a thread that goes to eugenics and then to transhumanism or vice versa. I'm not sure, because you can't have one without the other. The transhumanist so-called utopia requires the eugenics to create it, I think. Otherwise, you have just this mishmash of 6 billion people and whatnot. Also, very funny to note that the George Guidestones came down amongst all of this. I find that to be very symbolic. I still cannot explain it, but as someone who'd been watching those, that monument, if you will, all throughout my discoveries about eugenics and globalism over the years, to see it go down right after the mRNA started skeeting everywhere into our population, and then all this saber rattling about war and all the stuff, all the crises that we got right now. I don't know. I just find the whole thing very interesting, but very transhumanist agenda there that goes with it.
Absolutely, man. 100%. It's all connected. And yeah, with the Georgia Guidestones, I watched that documentary. It's like Dark Skies Over whatever the name of the little town is. It's a great documentary if anybody wants to watch it. I mean, it's detailed, and they find a couple of the guys that worked on it are dead, but they find one of the main guys who's still alive at the time they did the doc, and they ask him all about it. And he's actually got all the papers where he corresponded with this RC Christian guy for years. He's got all the papers out in his garage or in his shed or whatever. And they keep asking this guy questions. He doesn't want to give it away, but they find out who the guy is. I forget who he was now, but he was a local businessman, fairly wealthy guy, but a big, new age kind of guy, eugenicist type of guy. And it was really interesting, but they did mention in that doc, the guy who had worked on it, that there was something buried underneath it that was meant to come out at some point, and I don't know, I'd love to know if they dug the whole foundation up or, and pulled something out, but,
They say that nothing was down there, but
oh, okay.
I don't believe them. I think whatever was down there, I don't know. I'm just totally speculating here, but in my mind, the way that I make that whole thing make sense is that it was too on the nose. It was too much, as they jabbed the whole planet pretty much with this weird stuff and changed people around, made GMO people out of so many of us. The whole thing needed to just come down, because the trajectory of the transhumanist push and the globalization, they needed to do that consolidation of power and resources that went along with the kick into the pandemic, and has spiraled into everything we're seeing now. So I think they just pulled it, because they were tired of people like us talking about it and pointing it out and relating it to the writings of Bertrand Russell and these other people, because it all just starts to make too much sense. And I want to know what was in that chamber down there. Definitely do. And I think it's stupid that we're to just believe, oh, we just couldn't figure out who did it. I don't know what happened there. Very, very sus. The whole thing's very sus, but timely, isn't it? When we're talking about the population decreasing, and I mean, that just, what are you going to say? It's a staple of the transhumanist globalist plan. And to circle it all back around, all this scarcity and climate change stuff is all part of that too. It all feeds right into it. That's one of the base worldview flaws that they need people to have, so that they can have that fear response that drives the narrative and the policies.
Absolutely, man. Well said. Yeah. Everything's about fear. The power of fear is so strong. So our government uses that against us constantly, and then it pits the people against each other. And then you have other governments doing the same to their people. And sometimes they're pitting their citizens against us and other countries' citizens. And then there's smaller factions that are using that same technique of fear to just cause chaos and control people, make them, very easily manipulated. Because if they have that fear and that spirit of somebody's out to get me, then they're going to be pretty easily tricked. And so that's kind of what our world runs on. It doesn't run on Duncan, it runs on fear, unfortunately. And I think that we have to just keep telling the truth, man, and getting this information out, because I think that people are hungry for it. they really are getting to the point where I feel like people are really wanting to know. They know things aren't right. Maybe they haven't ran into the right source to get the information to tell them more that they can kind of make up their own mind about. But a lot of people are thinking right now something isn't right about the information we're being told and about the world that's been kind of sold to us in a lot of ways. So I think hopefully more people are waking up.
Yeah, yeah. The air is full of skepticism and hesitancy to accept wholeheartedly narratives that the system is handing down. Um, I would say, Infidel, wouldn't you agree? I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people all across the board actually. Like the left has gotten really quiet about the whole voter integrity thing. Not the mainstream media left, but the people of the left. Like I think they're all kind of starting to realize, oh, wait a minute, what that is. I hate those Republicans. I voted D all the way down, even if the person was D for dead. It used to be we had dead people voting for people. Now we've got dead people voting dead people into office. I don't know if you guys saw that story, but yeah. Oh my God.
Zombieland.
We got dead people, 150-year-old people voting other dead people into office. Did you see that in Pennsylvania? Did you guys see that? Pennsylvania Democrats elect a dead lawmaker to their state legislature. Wow.
He died a month ago.
Yeah,
And then
this
they
is.
elected like a brain dead person to their Senate. So
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
know what's
yeah.
interesting is a lot of a lot of the votes that went to this guy was actually like a while. So what the Democrats did in 2020, and that's they started this back then, and I think they became really good at it. Is all those votes we're seeing right now is just they just go and ballot harvest the shit out of everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And that early mail-in voting, it basically almost like kills the idea of elections because like it's you can vote to someone like what like so much longer before even he start seriously campaigning. So there is a lot of people that voted to Fetterman, for example, like before that last debate. Not that I would if I actually, but believe it or not, if I'm in Pennsylvania, I would actually have voted against Oz because that's a hack that shouldn't have been a
Neither of
candidate
those
from
guys
the
should have
first.
been
Shouldn't
candidates.
have been a
Yeah,
candidate from the beginning, and it
both of them.
was a
Yeah.
disgrace from Trump to endorse him.
Hmm.
This is not an America First or a MAGA guy. That is bullshit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is a new reality, guys. This is if we don't do election reform, this is what we're going to see in every election moving forward because they play this game really well. And I heard it from someone. Their eye is on digital voting, some kind of something you can do from your phone while you're sitting at home. That's
I
what
know.
they're after.
Yeah. They want to federalize that. They've centralized it in all these places, and that's why there's very little integrity in the key districts in the battle zone states. That's what's going on here. Fetterman arguably did not win, and Oz knew because I spoke with a poll watcher there. I said it before, I'll say it again. I had a poll watcher live on the line from Pennsylvania in that Delaware County there in Pennsylvania. And I asked him, I said, what is going on? And he said the same shenanigans as in 2020. The same stuff. I'm talking to Oz's lawyers. He said, I've already talked to Oz's legal team. I let them know what we witnessed and that there is a number of very questionable practices going on here. They tried to lock him out. They tried to not let him take his poll watcher position. They did everything they could to make that happen. And, Oz, what did Oz do? He conceded the next morning.
Yeah, because that's what these guys do. This is Oz was an establishment Republican. They would have loved to have him in the Senate. It was going to be the new Mitt Romney.
Yeah, right. It's just amazing. Like how do you be Mehmet Oz? All right, let's just how do you be Mehmet Oz and have your lawyer come up to you at least at the end of the first night there on the 8th and say, hey, one of the poll watchers told me they saw abuse, they saw breaking chain of custody on the V drives. They saw them not doing logic testing on the boxes beforehand to make sure they passed the logic assessment. All these procedural things that are supposed to happen. Your Mehmet Oz, your lawyer comes to you and they says, yeah, poll watcher told me, boom, 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 boom. All those things are vulnerabilities. All those things are threat vectors that could change the vote. What do we do? What do we do, Dr. Oz? Well, we certainly won't go and tell everybody what you just said. We certainly won't go over to Tucker Carlson's show and spend 45 minutes going through all that evidence so that the public can see what's going on here. You know what I mean? It's like,
Dude, look at that race, the Bobby Trace in Colorado. She just flipped that. They were so like, everybody was like, "Oh, she's gonna lose," and Ana Navarro was going around and like on Twitter today and celebrating, and she flipped that, and she's winning now, and she's gonna win that race, because they wanted her to lose because she's like, again, a mega supporter. And then the same thing was Carrie Lake and Arizona and Master Blake, like what's happening in Arizona right now, and they will win. Carrie Lake will absolutely win. But look at what they are doing right now. They are even like selectively dumping ballots to skew the results, to push certain narrative. It is insane what we're seeing right now. It is really unbelievable, the amount of manipulation that we're seeing in our election right now, and you want people to trust it.
I know, man. It's crazy, and they want to like call you all kind of, to call you a denier, an election denier. Oh, how dare you be an election denier? I mean, what are you talking about? Like the Democrat Party put 140 lawsuits down. They're doing legal fare in 2020. The Democrat lawyers put 140 lawsuits down, okay, all contesting election stuff. The Republicans put 70 down, and most of those were in response to all the Republican law stuff. So the Democrat legal cases. So it's just like that in and of itself, that fact in and of itself just totally nullifies this whole like, oh, Republicans are terrible deniers. Not to mention the fact I've got a 10-minute clip on the board of a montage of prominent leftists calling foul. Not to mention the whole Russiagate thing. Did everybody forget Russiagate? I mean, come on.
Hillary Clinton came out like a week ago and calling 2024 already those right wing extremists trying to steal the election 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. This is really a fascinating midterm election for one reason. Number one, as I mentioned, there is a big battle I don't know if I want to get into the election now or not before I start going to the route.
No, that's I'm interested. I want to get away from culture jamming. Culture jamming is giving me a headache. I'm ready to talk about something else that'll give me a headache. The election.
Yeah, I know, right? I actually believe that the establishment GOP, and there is big evidence for this right now. They went to this midterm election with a plan. Their plan is like, and it was coordination with establishment Democrats and also how can we get rid of Donald Trump from the Republican Party, and how we can get rid of the populist movement that start growing into the Republican Party and what they call the MAGA Republicans right now. That's a term for them, is like the MAGA Republicans.
Right.
And I think their plan was very freaking simple. Let's create that narrative in the media, right? Number one, the establishment Republican put so much money to fight a lot of those candidates that won the primaries, the Republican primaries. And guess what? A lot of those candidates ended up winning in this election and winning their seats. They even flipped New York state House seats. So whatever the hell narrative they are trying to push right now is nothing more than they just want to start a war in the GOP to basically to oust Trump out and then slowly kill that movement and get the establishment hand back in. And I think that's what it's all about, really. And it's very clear right now. Paul Ryan is coming out today. Mike Pence was yesterday talking about like how like he resisted Trump during that insurrection actions that he was trying to do in 2020.
Yep.
Mike freaking Pompeo coming out today. And by the way, all those are people that Trump himself supported or put in power. Not that I'm actually saying that Trump didn't do a lot of shitty shit, right? And I don't know if I trust his judgment right now, but my point is this war is establishment GOP versus all the populist new Republican Party that built around Trump, that Trump brought people in that they weren't even Republicans, and they found basically, hey, that can be our party, we can reform it, we can take it, and I'm one of those people, I'm one of those people. Like, I was never a Republican, I was never a Democrat either, I was always independent. But then when I'm realistically thinking, really, like, in this nation right now, like running as an independent, it is not a very viable road. So what will be the party that can be reformed, that actually can represent some of the ideas, or has the closest ideas to what I believe in? And I think that's where that new right, or the new populist America First, or you want to call them MAGA Republicans, came in, right? And it's that what this midterm is all about. And you will see this is going to keep amplifying. This is going to go away. And it's so freaking obvious, really so obvious.
What do you think, God, man?
Well, I'm bad about just being down on elections and not thinking it works anymore and it's rigged and all that stuff, which I do to a degree. But, I think it's important that these people local, especially the more local elections, that people are starting to get involved, because, it's just been taken over by these progressives, and they're going to push the envelope as far as they can get it. There's no end to it. So I think that would be the best thing to come out of the Trump years is more people with integrity run for office and get elected and stay true. That's the bad part. I think there are some good people that end up going to Washington and end up running for office and getting elected. But, the system is from what we read and what we see, it's such a crooked, corrupt machine nowadays that they get sucked in and become one of those monsters, and I hope that a lot of these people that did get elected, I hope that they are true and consistent and honest with the people and stay, true to what they say they stand for, because we've been, time and time again, for at least the 20 some odd years I've been paying attention, we've had the conservatives, they talk such a good game, they make all these promises, and then nearly every time they drop the ball. And I think that the Tea Party was destroyed from within, mostly from the Republican Party. I think the establishment Republicans like McCain, and then of course they put Palin in there, and some of these others, I think that they had to take it over because it was too successful. And that was around the time that, Ron Paul was really starting to make a name for himself, and a lot of people were getting involved, in the liberty movement. And I think that then that was seen as a huge threat, and they realized what potential that had and how they could totally be taken over and kicked out of their positions by these people who actually did care about freedom and liberty and the Constitution and, the First and Second Amendments and all that stuff. And I think that they probably have been planning ever since how they're going to squash that. And, then we got Trump, and it had some of those elements of the Tea Party in it. Even if, some of the things that I feel like a lot of the things he said was kind of more, just kind of empty statements, with the Cambridge Analytica thing. He paid a lot of money to find out how, I believe, to know what the right thing was to say to the people to get a really strong base. So there's that. But I think a lot of the things he was saying and a lot of the people who were following him, it was solid things and it was good people behind it. And so I hope that, that element is true. That's all I'm saying, I guess, is I hope that they did pretty well in this election. It wasn't really a red wave, I guess you'd say, but they did pretty good. And I think that it has the potential to grow if these people are true. And when other people see, well, wow, they did pretty well, I'm going to run for office. I think that could be a promising thing in the future, in the near future, maybe a sign of hope if there is one.
Yeah, really, man.
You mentioned the Tea Party. I agree with you there, old man. It is that the beginning of that movement, actually. That Trump Road, actually, on top of it, was the beginning of it, was that Tea Party. And they put some people down. They killed Sarah Palin career back then. Not that I'm a big fan of her, but she but also she was part of that. But it's I think that fight is going to continue and it's not going to go anywhere. But I do believe that wing of the Republican Party is growing stronger. I don't think they will be able to break it. I think right now they are rejecting, even McCarthy right now is being challenged to being the Speaker of the House because people are tired of those establishment figures.
Yeah.
And I think people have to run to office. I think we have to take that back. We have to start believing that this being in the government, that government should be controlled by the people. It is not an elite cabal or a certain sect that has to be approved, or a group that has to be approved from that establishment for you to be able to run to office. And I think breaking that is and it is very clear. They put a lot of money, and a lot of those candidates won against Democrats that they were outspend them by 20x because people were sick of this. People wanted change, and that's what Trump wrote. And I think it's very clear that we are still a divided country. There is a part of the population completely brainwashed on one side, and there is no way of moving these people back. It was very clear in this election, right? It doesn't matter the economical conditions, doesn't matter what they do. They are brainwashed by mainstream media to an extent that you can lead them to their death, and they're just going to still vote for that blue. So it's we'll see what happens, but it is going to be a fight, and it's going to get ugly. And I think the warmonger neocons are coming out right now. I was saying that earlier before the show started when I was talking with Odd Man, and with the global alignment that's happening right now, and the multipolar world that's Russia and this new BRICS plus agreement that they are, Saudi Arabia, they are talking with Saudi Arabia and Russia, China, and Turkey. There is a big global alignment that's happening that will result in basically pushing the US to be the single reserve currency of the world. And you know what that means? It's the only way to maintain that through history, the last few decades, is war, right?
Big
one. And that's why they have to put the next president they will elect has to be a war president. That's why they do not want Donald Trump, because he knows that he doesn't want war. And they want a war president. And DeSantis will be a war president. I will tell you this from now, because he is being polished to be that. He's going to be polished to be the new George W. Bush.
Wouldn't that be a peach? And let's not forget also, I'll add to that, going back to the corrupt, the downfall of the Tea Party. That was when we started seeing three-letter agencies that go IRS being weaponized against the internal factions of that were actually the grassroots part. So, they just hired 87,000 more of those people, or at least they're trying to scare us into believing they are by taking a bunch of tax money and telling us they are. That's all still very strange to me. But yeah, there's definitely a big power struggle going on here. And you know what? I think at this point, with you know, the amount of watching of this stuff that we've been doing over the years, paying attention to how this works, when there's just a number of dots you connect where it's like, oh, okay, so much of the voting system is as you would expect it to be, but the places that are where the variables are, they have these places where they have centralized voting rules. They have Soros and Clinton Foundation backed DAs. They have, you know what I mean? They have the whole thing set up so that we're subject to vulnerabilities in certain key places. And it's like you get 6 or 7 of those key places, and a very small number of people can sort of game that system via, mass mail-in ballots and ballot harvesting, not requiring voter IDs, or messing with the way that IDs work. You know what I mean? Like, all that kind of stuff is happening everywhere. So it's kind of like Twitter used to be, or maybe it still is. I don't know. It's like there's a underlying algorithm running the conversation, in this case the numbers, and you just don't know who's behind it and why. So if we just reset the board, so to use the Twitter metaphor, it'd be like, remove all the fake bots, remove the algorithms, remove the shadow bans, allow people to come back in that haven't actually broken terms of services, people that were politically targeted, and then let the conversation happen, right? Like, the same thing could happen with the voting in this country. If they fixed a couple of things and stopped allowing these vulnerabilities to exist, and just realize, hey, these things make it such that people are going to deny the results because people can see. I can't even go through all the evidence I've been shown in what we have left of the show, but it's like you get out there and you start looking at all these machines that are down, all these places that are not doing chain of custody, all these places that are not doing the logic tests on the machines, all these places that have campaign workers out front or poll workers out front telling people how to vote. That's illegal. There's tons of video of that going on. And it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And if you think it's a partisan thing, this is what really gets me odd man out. Because if it's a partisan thing, um, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say this because it bumps into the psychological operations and the stupidity and the mind control factor of the population. But if it's a partisan thing and you're just stoked that Orange Man and all the red baseball hat people can't get into power, you're missing the fact that that same operation can and will at some point be turned on your side. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to put Orange Man and red hats and all the ist calling stuff aside and realize, like, across all of the identity politics out there, the rainbow of identity politics, but in particular the right and the left ones, that this is an egregious breach of trust, when it comes to any sort of democracy, never mind a representative government. If these shenanigans are just going to happen in our faces, and then they're going to say, oh, you guys, you're canceled, you're not allowed to deny this. Goes both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it is scary. I've talked about this in the past, but like, they've got us so divided now that like one divisive leader can kind of control both sides in this weird way.
Mhm.
And if they're smart enough with their propaganda and their psychological techniques, they can control both sides exactly the way they want them, which is really scary. And, I don't know how to remedy that. People would just have to become more savvy about recognizing these kind of tricks and stuff, and not, they want to keep people thinking with their emotions instead of logically, of course. And the left, is really bad about that. The term bleeding heart liberal, I mean, that's kind of, signifies that. And then there's some things obviously that are good about feeling, using your emotions, but you have to use logic and critical thinking, and they don't want people doing that. And, it's a point, it's to the point where, they are going to, like, they want to keep people thinking that blindly defending their side is actually good for them. They want to keep everybody thinking that, unfortunately. And it's like, if the person was ever to stop, a single person was ever to stop and think about that, then they would realize, wait a minute, I've got to look at each single thing, each single representative, and see, is this good for me? Is this good for the people? But people don't do that, they just go along and defend their guys, and there's no accountability. That's actually what I'm getting to. I'm sorry, I'm going along, kind of a long way to just say there's no accountability. And I think that's very important because, especially on our side right now, with having these new, the people that got voted in, people better hold them accountable and let them know, because that's one of the biggest problems, I think, with, the more right leaning side. We've just accepted what they've said and said, the patriotic gestures and slogans and different things like that, and accepted their empty promises time and time again, because everybody's scared to death of getting the other side in, the whole, lesser of two evils. So we've got to let these people know we're serious. If you don't do what you say, if you're one of these rhinos, we're not going to support you. I mean, it's almost better to get the person in office who's evil in a way, and exactly what to expect from them, than these rhinos who are stabbing you in the back and selling you out to the highest bidder behind your back.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that people need to stop voting for lesser evil crap. You have to vote in people that you think they represent you, people that, because guys, they will push for the, like, I was just reading an article right now from Canada. Should Doug Ford bring back indoor mask mandates in Ontario? Experts say it's time. You know that shit is coming.
I saw that too.
And you need to have people to fight against this crap. And it starts by your local elections, and you need to have people in office to fight this crap.
Yeah. Any Democrat senator that's been put back in voted for you to be locked down, voted for mandates, voted for medical mandates, jab mandates, all this stuff. And I was reading this list out on my show earlier today. It bears repeating. So New York, we're going to use you as the example here for what you can expect for other states that have either by hook or crook, okay, or by legitimate vote in, packed their sides of the aisle with more Democrats. Okay, here's what your acceptance of that politic is going to bring you out of New York under Hochul coming up just here in January. January's not far off. So forced shot mandates to attend school. That's one bill. And another bill, A279A, forces all adult jab records into a state database. They got another bill here, 7829, forced jabs for college. They got A2240, forced flu jabs to attend school and daycare. They got AB 8398, eliminates all of the religious exemptions for work and college for said jabs. They got another bill here that eliminates all the parents' consent to jabs when a child reaches 14 years of age. They got another bill. These are all bills they're going to be voting on. The people that you voted in, hook or crook, maybe you didn't. I know some of you didn't want them. There's another one, S931, eliminates parents' rights to consent to STD shots for children of any age. Any age. So you give an HPV shot to your 3-year-old at daycare while you're away. You got Bill 416, Assembly Bill 416, allows the governor to imprison without trial anyone she considers a threat to public health. I'd have to see how that one is actually spelled out in legalese. I don't really like the shorthand for that one, but who knows what that is? Someone can do a little bit of research on that for us. And we've got bills coming up to eliminate unjabbed people's access to healthcare insurance. Could you imagine that, odd man? Where have you heard that warning where that might happen in the last couple of years? Oh, yeah, right here in the boiler room.
Man, that's some scary stuff. And, these people, it's like we said a few minutes ago, there's no end to what they'll push. And they just, it blows my mind. They're supposed to be they love to think of themselves as the intelligent party, but they basically want to take all the parents' rights away and treat kids like they're adults. And obviously, children their brains are not developed. They don't know what's right and what's wrong in many cases. I mean, they know basic stuff, of course, but that's why they're kids. They're learning, and it's just insane. Some of the policies, it's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not realistic at all. They're out there. They're I mean, I'm trying to think of a good word. It's like they live in a fairy tale. They're not. They do not live in reality. And if, I mean, in their world, everybody is highly medicated. You know what I mean?
Genetically
Because
modified, double boosted, triple boosted, highly medicated, living on Doritos and soy chips. But yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying, like it seems to be the way that they make up for these crazy ideas of the way they live. We'll just like get on one of the big pharma's drugs, and that'll fix any depression, instead of actually admitting that some of these policies and these social ideas that they push are actually causing them to be unhappy. You know what I mean? It's I'm rambling on. I'm sorry.
No, I know what you mean, man. It's just unbelievable that anyone could survive in the political climate after what we've seen over the last 2 years with regards to all this crap, all this COVID crap. How do people that have laid that kind of bullshit on their constituents think they can get reelected is beyond me. Why anyone would vote for a Gavin Newsom or an Inslee or a Hochul, I don't even fucking get it, man.
Or Whitmore. Like Whitmore abuse.
Whitmore.
Do you remember how she blocked Michigan
Awful.
from buying seeds? Do you remember like
Oh,
last year when they actually outlawed you buying seeds and having garden in your house during COVID lockdown?
Mhm.
And they voted her
Mhm.
in. Insane.
No, it's just like what? I mean, we have a serious brainwashed human problem in this planet if they're really voting people like that back in. I mean, amazing.
You, we talk about kind of like psychological operations and different propaganda and stuff like that, but like you'd think that these people, I mean, it's too deep for them to think because people are so emotional, but it's like their side, the people that rule over the DNC, the political strategists on that side, the mainstream media who leans mostly left, they scare their base to death to the point where they will follow them off of the edge of a cliff because they want to avoid anything to do with the GOP. And I know the other side does it too, but at least the other side does push, or at least in theory, for individual rights in the Constitution and the First and Second Amendment, which is for us all. They've got the other side so brainwashed that they don't even realize that those things are for them too. They benefit them too. But that's just the going back to the emotion of it all. It's really scary how easily they can manipulate people into doing exactly what they want them to do.
Yep. Fear, man. Fear is the driving force there. Definitely. It definitely is. Let's see here. What else do we got, Infidel? We've got I've got so many like shenanigans in my tabs here. It's absolutely amazing. Check this out. In Brazil, you know, they just had that thing in Brazil, right? They just had a big upset in Brazil there with Bolsonaro there, you know, and giant protests going on. Here's the latest headline out of Brazil that I'm seeing. Brazil's Ministry of Defense issues statement on its audit report. They said, quote, "It is not possible to guarantee that the programs that were executed in the electronic voting machines are free from malicious insertions." How about that? I believe they're using the same Dominican systems that we're using in some of ours. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's the whole Brazil thing. And just it's interesting because I've seen some, you know, some people that were associated with Bolsonaro government that were really going pretty extreme on the fascist side. So I really don't have a dog in this fight, to be honest. I mean, I know he was more of like on the anti like COVID measures, and that's what I liked about him. I know he was anti like globalist agenda.
He
I
was
like that as
their
well.
populist, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
he's a populist. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And then they try
definitely.
to paint him as a racist and a sexist and a fascist,
Yeah,
just like they did Trump.
yeah. So yeah, it's just that's the issue. Is like once people like again, once your people confidence in elections shakes, there is just no way you're going to change your mind. I mentioned the statistics in our show on Tuesday. Some of the exit polls, 63%. Sorry, 63% of voters on this exit poll believe that Biden fairly won 2020 election. So there are 37% of Americans still believe that 2020 was rigged. And that's, you know, that's from that samples that CNN did. So I imagine it actually bigger than that. And they tried to shut everybody down that question anything. They tried to shut anybody down that's even tried to fix things. Why do you think they are freaking out from Kerry Lake? Because Arizona is their playground. It's a McCain machine that he installed in Arizona that's running Arizona right now, right? This is the corruption that he put in place. That's why they are afraid of her to come in and start cleaning house and cleaning that shenanigan that's happening in Arizona. And now we start seeing, oh, Arizona may be going red again in the presidential elections in 2024.
Oh yeah, dude. They've upped it to 30%. They're now saying actually they said it was like 20% of the machines weren't working, all in red zones. But now they're saying it's up to 30%. Up to 30% of the machines just all of a sudden weren't working, huh? Just didn't that didn't work. Sorry. Sorry about that.
So,
Yeah.
Ruckus,
What up, Ruckus? Welcome back.
Yo, I'm trying to send the link to Joseph and he'll join.
we told you we'll still be here.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, man.
Yeah, hold on.
All right, welcome back. Yeah, it's Mariposa County, dude. Mariposa County is the spot. That's the only piece that they need in Arizona. Mariposa County is where the shenanigans are happening. And in Georgia, it's Fulton County, and apparently in Pennsylvania, it's Delaware County.
Dude,
Those
they
are
are
the
figuring
places
out, and yeah,
where
they
they're
figured out,
fucking with it.
and the same happening. Believe it or not, odd man, the same happening in Tennessee right now, in Nashville. They're figuring out that same ballot harvesting shenanigans, and they are trying to use that to just flip like general state election. But Yeah, there's just all what they need is just key places. That's why that bullshit of like, oh, it's a mass coordinated, like, oh,
Right.
it's there was never a mass coordinate. I'm like, yeah, of course there is no mass coordinate. There is, like, they're not sitting in the White House and telling them change this or do that.
Yeah, they're not getting a phone call from Trump saying, "Okay, now go down to the Capitol building. Now go out here." No, this is how this works. This is by all appearances, everything I can tell, everyone I've talked to, this is how this works. All right, you have those key places. There's four or five, there's about four other states that are like these too, but for now I'll just use Maricopa County in Arizona, Fulton County, Georgia, and Delaware, Pennsylvania as examples. All those places have DAs and state representatives that have been appointed there, and by, with the money of Open Society, with the money of the Clinton Foundation, packed with lawyers. They pack these counties with their lawyers, tons of them. That's how they're able to put 140 lawsuits out in a midterm election cycle. So those people pack these areas, and then they push legislation that changes who's in charge of the voting procedures and rules in that state, and they pass legislation that essentially centralizes the vote, the control of how the vote works. And in some states, like in Pennsylvania, that is quite literally a crew of 5 people who are card carrying socialists, people that say, openly that they are a socialist of one flavor or another. And then the DAs all are in on this too down there. And then the polling stations. And then then they have control over that. And any lawsuits that come up won't reach the level of the DA, because the DA won't see it. Or it'll be blocked by, a gang of Soros or Clinton lawyers. So there's like no defense against this dark art. And then once they have that place, they lean into these drop and roll schemes, which Joe Hoft has reported on at the Gateway Pundit here. And it's this example here, unexplained ballot drop in Georgia Senate race likely prevented Herschel Walker from winning the race outright, which is what I was alluding to earlier in the show. And he writes, it happened again. On Tuesday in the 2022 midterms, the drop and roll occurred in the Michigan governor race, just like it happened in the 2020 presidential election. It also occurred in the Minnesota governor's race. We now have evidence that it has also occurred in the Georgia Senate race, stealing the win from Republican Herschel Walker. The crooks and criminals are stealing U.S. elections in multiple ways. One of the biggest ways they stole the 2020 election was the drop and roll method. In the drop and roll incidents back in the 2020 election, we identified that at that point, where 90% of the expected ballots were returned, a large batch of ballots was then dropped, with nearly every ballot going to Biden. These batches were as large as 330,000 ballots for Biden in Virginia at one time. Then after that, so that's the drop. Then after that point, nearly all the batches of ballots recorded in the election were at the same ratio of Biden to Trump, with Biden always receiving more ballots than President Trump. These results were not random and clearly not legitimate. So that's the roll part, right? They drop all these ballots and then they roll it into a almost neck and neck fight. And then they've got all the time in the world to count these votes, and they can count them in any order they want. They can look at them in a way where they can separate them and know where most of the red votes are going to come from. In Pennsylvania, I'm told some of those boxes just get lost and are replaced with others. Same with the V drives, the actual digital drives that are in those machines. Chain of custody broken on those. Chain of custody broken on the vote. The V drive is the fucking vote. That is the digital vote. It's considered the vote. Why would it be okay that the chain of custody on a V drive is broken? Why would logic assessment not happen on a voting machine? What are these drop and roll schemes? And why are they happening in those crucial states, in those crucial counties? Those counties, because they're the biggest, most populous ones, and they have the power to flip. So, denier central over here. Sorry, everybody. It's that easy.
It's like I think there's a Stalin quote, and I'm paraphrasing, but something like, "I care not who votes, I care who counts the votes." Yeah, so it's basically the same thing.
Yep, exactly, and then that's not even to count. That whole scheme right there is not to count the mass mail-ins and the harvesting ones. It's just and the voter ID schemes. You know, this you got to clear the decks on this bullshit, or no one's ever going to believe it anymore. Doesn't matter. It's not a partisan thing. It's just a fact. I don't know what else to say about it, but it's going to be interesting to see how they let the dominoes all fall after all this. And I wonder what the voter, like, I don't know. I wonder what the actual, it'd be interesting to get a real tally, like a real poll as to, like, after all this goes down, how much how much voter integrity there actually is left in this country. Because I don't think they want to tell us the truth about that. I think it's probably pretty fucking low. How'd it go over at Joseph's show, Ruckus? Is Joseph going to join us?
I sent him the link.
All right. All right. Well, what'd you guys talk about tonight, man? Or shit,
There was
anything?
some overlapping going on a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know how my brain works. I move from one room to the next, like you do when you walk through a doorway, and you're like, "Why did I come in this room?"
Yep.
So I compartmentalized everything I just talked to in the other room in my brain. So we talked about a lot of stuff. So
That works.
yeah,
Folks will have to go to TNT to find out. Listen to that replay, man.
we did
Yeah,
things. We talked about stuff, you know.
all the stuff and things in the
But
tabs.
there was an article that we were taking a look at that I do have to get Odd Man's take on about something. So you'll have to forgive me as I pop open my. Here it is. All right. Joe Biden, American women showed up and beat the hell out of Republicans.
We talked about that too while you were gone.
Cool. All right. So you're familiar with the article. Did anyone notice the exit polls?
Yo.
Hey, Joseph. What's up, man?
What's up?
Look who it is. Joseph, maybe you can here. This is perfect. I'm gonna let Joseph pitch this to Odd Man, and so we can get Odd Man's perspective. In that article about the women showing up and beating the hell out of Republicans, it's the exit polls for the midterm elections showed a certain percentage of women who voted believing that abortion was the most important issue driving them to vote. Joseph, what was the percent? What percent? What number was that?
Oh, 33%.
Of course.
Do you think there's any there, Odd Man?
I think you're on mute, dude.
Sorry, I haven't figured this podcasting thing out yet. It's so weird, though. You know, I'm sure all of us have seen it. Like the big headlines that have that number. It's so weird. It seems disproportionate. Yeah. You know, maybe it's just one of those fluke things, but yeah, I don't think so. Not always.
Yeah, there's that Jim Brewer thing. Did you guys see that video where there was the compilation of all the 33s surrounding the COVID thing when COVID first broke out, or the vaccine or whatever? And it was always like 33 deaths. There was like an absurd amount of 33s in the mainstream news. It maybe it was virtue of editing, but it didn't seem to be. It seemed to be something precarious going on. And I'm not a big tinfoil hat guy with that stuff. I mean, I believe in coincidence sometimes, but this was nuts, you know.
Yeah, I saw some of those, man. There was just like, what the hell? Just these long, like montage videos of that stuff, and then photos just all crammed together. It's been, yeah, that stuff. The whole numerology people must just go nuts, man. I'm kind of like you. Like, I see it, I notice it, I see what's happening, but I can't let myself fall into the numerology too hard. But there's some people out there just like, oh, doing the gematria on this, it's like too much symbolism. We're drowning in esoterics as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could drive you crazy after a while.
And sometimes you don't need to go that far to make a certain point that you're trying to make. You can go with the basic obvious stuff, but some people get wrapped up in the numbers and the esotericism when you could just maybe do like a simple, here's a paper trail, follow the money, look, bam, 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 conflict of interest, case closed, you know.
Yeah.
It's like you see people that are so carried away with that. And I mean, there's some brilliant stuff that some people can pull out, but like also when you start looking at it, there's like all these different ciphers. So a lot of people never, like, reveal which cipher. They could be using like 20 different ciphers to make it all add up together. So it's like, I don't know, man. You need to be a little more forthcoming with that stuff.
Man, you just gotta trust them. Trust the numerologists, man. Trust them. They know what's up.
Right.
Well, what's the purpose of it? You have to ask yourself that, because it's like, I guess the theory with the whole Jim Brewer 33 video compilation was that it's some kind of, I think I heard them say that it was some kind of like, now it's go time sort of thing. But it's like, they could just also pick up the phone and say, now it's go time. I mean, they could send an email as well. They don't have to deliver it through mainstream sort of news symbology,
It's part of their ritualistic MO, though. Like they have this allegedly it's very conspiratorial when you try to spit this out. Allegedly, they have this whole like ritualistic thing where they have to, through art and culture, like present to us their intentions and their symbology and all that, right? Like there's some sort of inherent like mind control that has to like be part of their prestige. I don't know. It's all it's hard to think in that set of shoes. It's also Crowley-ish.
Yeah, it makes sense on that level, I guess.
The revelation of the method, as some call it.
Right.
The humiliation ritual aspect of it has to be in plain sight. It has to be sort of announced. Man has to be complicit with his own downfall, or else I guess Satan doesn't get full soul credit. For full soul credit, you have to do it to yourself. You have to participate.
You gotta choose it, huh? Yeah.
Joseph, since you're in Arizona, do you have any updates for us or word about Carrie Lake?
What's going on in Arizona, man? Give us the update. I hear she's fighting for it, and she's last I heard, she said she had like 600,000 votes that haven't been counted yet. It went from like 300 to 600,000 between the time I talked to Ruckus earlier today and the time we started the show. So that's a lot.
Yeah, and they're supposed to go, she said, 2 to 3 to her conservatively. Did you watch that Glenn Beck interview? Is that where you got that? That's why I watched that this morning. Or I did a run with listening to that. And she says she's got it in the bag, and that Blake Masters has it in the bag maybe as well. But he'll just eke it out, whereas she's going to do some stomping. That's what she says. But the weird part about it is, why is Arizona embarrassing themselves with this slow count? Doesn't make sense. Like, what's the point of it? Does anybody know?
It's so they can run shenanigans, man. What do you think, Infidel?
I think the point of it is they are trying to run a certain narrative right now.
Right.
And the more delay they do in this election, that's helped them with the narrative that they are trying to play.
True. You're right. That's it.
And they want to play her as Trump in heels too, right?
That's right. Absolutely, it is.
So they probably love it that she's going out there and saying stuff like she is, like, I got, you know what I mean? I mean, she's inspiring. I like the way she talks. I like the way she calls out the media, but I am seeing her kind of pivot more into that role as Trump in heels. I'm seeing her kind of lean into that a little bit, and actually gave a pretty shining endorsement for Trump on Tucker Carlson in one of the last clips I heard. So I don't know, very interesting. It's like on the one hand, I kind of see her pivoting into that role and maybe benefiting from it, but maybe at the same time alienating more moderate crowd of just normal people in Arizona that do want to see their border problem fixed and all the stuff. Like, that's the thing. She has all these action items that she's, saying she's going to do. Like, I'm going to fix the voting system. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to declare an emergency there. Whereas like all these other places where we just saw no red wave, it's like, I'm going to be tough on crime. There wasn't a whole lot of like action items involved with a lot of these bloviating people. But I don't know, maybe it plays into that narrative for the left too, to hold this out so long and let her do all these spots and sort of lean into that, oh, she's the scary Trump in heels lady.
She wears the election denier label proudly.
She does.
I love that.
Well, okay, here's something. I think me and Joseph noticed this last night on the Technicolor Dreamcast in the second hour there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joseph, but weren't we reading a lot of, we were reading a lot of like pro DeSantis and anti-Trump kind of stuff coming from a lot of places, in particular the Daily Wire, which was interesting. But there was something else going on, and I'm about to lose my train of thought because I feel like Hesher looks right now.
I keep doing that too tonight, man.
But there was get me back on track, Joseph. What was the talking points with Trump when we were discussing it last night?
Well, that his reign is
the
death bells are ringing.
He came out Trump. Mad. Yeah, he was mad at other Republicans who were losing, right? And in some of these articles we were reading, they were saying that Trump was mad at this one guy, XYZ, because he was too afraid to wear that label that I just mentioned, that Kari Lake is so proud to wear, is that the people who were not embracing Trump's dangerous conspiracy theory of being election deniers, he was poo-pooing on. There was that kind of thing running through a number of these articles.
Well, yeah, and you could read the thing he wrote on Truth Social. That's pretty bombastic and wild, and just basically talking about almost like a mob boss, like talking about loyalty from DeSantis not being there because DeSantis didn't say he wasn't running, I guess. I mean, DeSantis just said he's not focused on that. He's going to be governor or something along those lines. And then Trump went in for the kill and is like waging war on Ron DeSantis, calling him Ron DeSanctimonious, and that's his new nickname, which is another brilliant nickname from Trump, really. It's like the dude's a genius at nicknames.
He owns that department for sure.
It is a funny nickname, It's just weird that it's leveraged at someone in his own party now, and we haven't seen that before. And so it has this air of desperation coming from him now that makes him look weak, really.
I think it's a 2015. I mean, I was there during the 2015 time. That's exactly what was the 2015 time. All those like people that came out of their holes and attacking Trump back then, and it feels like this right now because between the establishment and they're trying to push for this, and
I see your point.
Yeah. It's
maybe it's the same old story. That's what he said on the Truth Social thing, that he said, this is exactly what it was last time. I'm not afraid, basically.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of like made him look weak on some level, if you looked at it one way. And it also made him seem strong, too, because the wording was really, sort of eye of the tiger, eye of the Trumpster.
Yeah, and it's, I'm interested to see what's his agenda. If he really wants to earn my vote, he needs to show me his agenda. And I want to understand how is he going to combat that mob he had around him last time. Right? Is he bringing Jared back to the White House?
I know, dude. Like, how many of those same mistakes would we see?
Exactly. That's what I want to hear from him.
You're going to give more money to Big Pharma, and
he has to address Big Pharma. He has to. He has to address the COVID thing and his backing of that
Exactly.
injection. He has got to address that. He
Yep.
can't ignore that. That's
Yep.
huge.
It's the most
Yeah,
suspect thing of all because it's just an
Right.
open goal that's just there for the taking. It's been there for the taking since 2020 for him. It's just like, why do you leave that one open and expect people to back you? I just don't understand.
Yeah, he needs to address it.
You know, the thing about him too, I was just thinking though, is with Trump, as fired up as he gets his base, he also equally pisses off the other side. So he motivates them to get out to the polls. So I almost feel like I think it would be almost a miracle for him to pull off an election win, even if we had legit elections, which, that's kind of up in the air. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It just, the way he pisses people off, I mean, I think it would make even more Democrats go to the polls.
DeSantis versus The Rock. There we go.
There you go.
2024.
I don't know. This whole like feud between them feels very like, I don't know. I have sort of like World Wrestling
Fake.
Federation vibes over it. It's just like, I don't know. Are you guys really? I don't know. It's just, it's a little meta for me at this point to just try to even imagine what 2024 is going to look like and why right now in the GOP we have to be sort of posturing about 2024. It's like you guys just fucked everybody in the GOP by the way you've run this stuff and by the way you've let these other people run roughshod and then not support your own people when their own lawyers are telling them that poll watchers are seeing fraudulent behavior happening in their districts. It's like, why is that not addressed? Can you imagine being Dr. Oz and getting that news? Hey, the poll watchers told me, his legal team come to him saying, the poll watchers told me they're stealing this or they're messing up the chain of custody on the V drives or they're not doing the LNA analysis on the machines. Well, okay, well, let's concede. Like, how is that? Like, how is that fighting for the seat? How is that fighting? How is that even running a campaign? Like, I just don't understand. I can't make sense of that.
Because the propaganda against any kind of election denying has been so well done by the left that it's demonized to a point where the social shame would be, bigger than a hurricane. That's a good line for a song. It would be. It would just, it's too immense to even imagine taking. So Dr. Oz is like, you know what? I'm rich. I got a pretty good life. This just ain't my year. I kind of get it.
Yeah, I'm not destroying my brand over being a denier.
Right.
You can go ahead and have it there. Federer.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. It's too much.
So
But you
let's let Lurch have it. Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, but this is the kind of candidate that is not going to win those elections anymore. And the GOP, a big part of that GOP base right now is not going to vote for this kind of candidates. Because they know
What do you
those are the
mean?
people that go to Washington and do nothing. And I was actually against Trump for endorsing Oz because he's going to be another Mitt Romney. I was just saying this earlier, right? Going to be another establishment hack that goes. He was never an America First candidate. He doesn't have that background. He does not support that base. So why the hell would people fight for him even? So I think it's people are smarter right now. Even some of the candidates that Trump endorsed and people didn't buy them as they are truly representing their agenda didn't win. And some of the as I was saying earlier, some of the candidates that were in that America First agenda, they won in actually deep blue districts. And they flipped seats. So it's, I don't know. I stick back to my point. It's a what all the establishment GOP cared for in this election is oust Trump out, and not necessarily for Trump. Trump for them is just a representation of killing that populist movement in that party and preventing anybody coming out from that populist movement to take out the establishment. They just want to kill it.
Yeah, well, I know what you're saying, man, but the problem is in a lot of places they don't even. There is no other choice. Like they're literally choosing between a douche and a turd, and like at the higher levels, you know. But like on the flip, I was talking earlier today about Michael Gates and Huntington Beach because I think they're a good example of like where the kind of common sense that you're looking for actually exists. We're actually thinking about maybe using them as a bit of a media case study because they're one of the few cities in California that have an elected official for their city attorney. So, and most places, towns there have appointed city attorneys. And so this guy has to be reelected and stuff like that. And they have a based group of people that make up their city council. And because Huntington Beach is, he's from Huntington Beach, you know what I mean? He's like a California dude, Huntington Beach, skilled lawyer, used to have be a partner in a practice, and then went for this elected position so that he could kind of, serve his community. And I was talking to him on the show, and I was like, "So wait a minute, this is kind of major, actually. That you representing Huntington Beach have a somewhat distinct and different ability in the sense that when someone like Gavin Newsom comes in and says, well, guess what, guys, the mandate's in and we're going to fill in your skate parks with sand and we're going to close your beaches and we're going to have cops harass you if you go out on the beach. They were actually able to sue those ideas. They were able to sue Sacramento because they actually had a city council that supported the city district or the city lawyer, and they were able to do that. They were able to reopen their beaches and stuff like that and block a tyrannical government from oppressing their people and telling them how to use, their own representative land and their own people that they voted in. So but you go to most other towns and you've got all these just appointed people and COVIDian psychos. But my point is, it seems like it's a lot easier to look at an example like Huntington Beach and figure out how to fix a local school board, how to fix a local city council, how to make sure you have elected officials that actually represent the town. Because you don't want Newsom, if you're way up in Redding, California or wherever, or down in San Diego, you don't want Newsom in Sacramento telling you whether or not you can go to the beach or not. He doesn't know what the fuck your representation is in your town. He's just some micro tyrant up there. So there's a way to build that up from the bottom up. I think there's hope to build the kind of system you're talking about from the bottom up.
Absolutely.
And then from there, try to traverse into that house level, but I feel like that there's a firewall there. There's a firewall between like building something up like Huntington Beach has been able to maintain and then getting those people into Congress and then into Senate. You know what I mean? There's no path for them.
It's the gatekeepers.
Yeah, there's just all these firewalls and gatekeepers.
It's the clubs, the secret societies that our friend Oddman talks about. That's your answer. That's how.
Right.
That's where the buck stops right there.
Yeah, and that's where we all like fracture off and people start talking about parallel societies and parallel economies and running off to this, because it's like, oh, that system, it just stops right there. And it stops right there at the place where the largest layer of, power sort of begins.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's all start from the local level. And, we said that so many times that those local elections, the state elections, state senate, state houses, governor, even right now, like those are really critical right now. That's actually where those are the keepers for even election integrity, right?
Yeah.
If we have
they ever been this popular in popular culture before? I mean, they've never been this predominant in the culture. I mean, they're completely dominating the cultural narrative like a presidential race used to. I mean, people didn't used to pay this close attention to the midterms.
Yeah. Oh, totally. It's nuts, man. It's nuts how different it is after the whole Trumpian thing, Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. Because I don't really remember it like being all of the youth so activated, and
Right.
I mean, it was just
Rock the boat.
yeah.
Back
We
in
had
That
the
the
was just for that's
yeah,
true.
rah
Oh.
rah rock the vote, but it wasn't like they
it
weren't
didn't run
driving
like
us.
this.
They weren't driving us with pure outrage like they are now. Like they're driving the youth with pure, like pumped, unfiltered outrage and fear and adrenaline and existential dread. Like that's what they've injected into Gen Z and millennial Gen, and that's why all of a sudden there's this giant surge of people 18 to 29 that are voting and just ticking D all the way down because they've been skull plugged into thinking that anything other than D all the way down is a vote for
It's there's
Orange
an
Man.
obvious answer to the changes. It's actually a parallel thing. So it's a reflection. There's something else that was happening at the same time, and the change is a sideways effect, parallel part of it all, and that's this internet, social media, smartphone version of the propaganda warfare, the ultimate silent weapon in this quiet war against the people, social media. Just flat out, 100%. That's it. Politics never existed in a world of social media.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what it looks like. We're living it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
seems
was-
like. Oh, go ahead, man.
No, go ahead, old man.
I was just going to say, and also it seems like it's seeped into. I mean, we've always had a little bit of politics on TV and movies and music, but it seems like it's more prevalent to me than it used to be. It's like on so many levels you're getting this division and this propaganda, to vote this way or support these people, and it's usually skewed one way that's not in our favor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Yeah.
I was going to say quickly too, and what I would like to see from people on the right, representatives, nobody wants to touch the social issues because they're so, like that's what really gets people going, and I think that the right has handled that really badly in most cases. I think if they could get people out there who would be honest about it and say, okay, like, look, we respect these people and their beliefs, and we want them to be free to do A, B, and C. But, it comes to a point where this is ridiculous and you can't force a nation or, you can't force other people to go along with you. I just, like they kind of like, the people on the right won't even address it, and I think that's kind of purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to address it.
Yeah.
They don't want the smoke.
Yeah, that's right. And it goes all back to that, like people having no action items. Like they just say what they don't like. They don't like all this stuff, but they don't say what they're going to do about it. Except maybe Carrie Lake has got some. She's got some actual action items set up, but mostly what we saw this year was just blah blah blah.
It's because it has to go immediately to Christianity. I mean, that's like really like a lot of this stuff is still that battle. I mean, in my opinion, did you see Matt Walsh and Joe Rogan? Did you see Matt Walsh going?
Yeah, I did. I saw them going a little toe to toe there. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole last half hour was on gay marriage, and good on Joe Rogan for recommending What Is a Woman and all that. That he brought that into popular culture in a way that it became acceptable, and we're watching that shift policy. I mean, that whole narrative, when we first watched What Is a Woman, when we were all hanging out there in New Mexico, and I remember bringing it up on TNT that same week and saying, we can't be giving gender reassignment surgeries to children. It's ridiculous, and here's why. I'm quoting a lot of that movie. That felt like such a dangerous thing to say, again, even from the place of already been canceled a few times. I mean, like there's levels of cancellation. It's like I'm already canceled all over the place, but now I'm gonna get more canceled. But then now that's an okay thing to say out loud. They've shifted that. That's happened recently. We saw that shift happen quickly, because
Yeah.
it wasn't okay to say that 3 months ago, and now it is, and
Right.
now we're watching policy shift. And I think a lot of those people avoid it because, the next attack from coming from cancel culture is going to be directly on the Bible. It's going to be directly on Christianity in general. They're just going to name it, and it's going to be like, if you are Christian, you're supporting something hateful. It's going to go all the way to that.
Same with constitutional, freedom-loving, liberty,
Exactly.
anything traditional and non, involved in their crazy identity politic will all be frowned upon and
demonized.
All be looked at as literally Hitler and all that other crap.
The Constitution was written by and for godly people. Once you remove God, you don't need that pesky Constitution anymore. Am I right?
Because God gives you your unalienable rights. So if you take him out of the equation, the whole thing doesn't really make sense anymore.
Time for a rewrite.
And it's like Chesterton said, if you, I think even people who are non-religious can kind of agree with it. Like if you take the God aspect out completely, then the government becomes God. And we see that side really treat government like a holy, even Nancy, I think she called during the Jan 6, she called it the temple, the Capitol, the temple right there, man. I mean, they really do worship government. I don't know how else to say it. It's like
the religious talk of denial too.
Yeah. I mean,
deny the faith in your government.
I actually disagree. I'm agnostic / atheist, right? And I do not worship the government. I'm not like a demoral, degenerate person. I think that's an argument that the right sometimes use to label anything on the other side that doesn't follow that agenda. It's the same how the other side label Christians in a certain way. So I wouldn't tie these two together, to be honest, because I think that's what caused sometimes some of that division to happen. And I think that's why Republicans lose sometime is when they attack that social issues and they start freaking out people, and they fear from one of the main things that this country is about is separation of church and state. And I'm pretty big on that. And I think a lot of those people there was actually one of the things on the ballot that I voted against in Tennessee. They wanted to remove a statement from the Tennessee Constitution to allow reverends to run for offices. And I was against it. I do not want to bring religious people into the government.
No, I agree with you. And what I was saying was, I wasn't saying like the individual can't be good without, God. What I was saying was like, it seems like as a group, the Democrats have kind of replaced that faith of in a religion with the political beliefs. They treat it almost holy. You know what I mean?
I agree with you.
We're like the right. I think they're more apt to kind of they will look up to a leader, almost deify him, where the left takes the whole government and turns it into like a like almost like a holy like a bunch of holy, like the whole structure is holy to them, I guess. I'm not really speaking.
I agree with you, old man. And this is what I actually I believe actually in what you're saying. Humans, majority of humans, they need to believe in something, right? They need to believe in something. Religion give you that. Yeah, absolutely.
I do. I confess.
Yeah, no, this is we have, this is part of being human. This is part of being human. You have to believe in this higher purpose, higher, and religion give you that, right?
Right.
And what happened for a lot of the nuns right now, and I can tell you because I've been in that atheist circles for too long, and I saw them, and it's one of the reasons why I don't associate with them, because what I found is, as you said, there is a gap that happens once you start dropping. They leave religion because they label religious people being irrational. But what they do is they leave religion and all the irrationalities that they attack the other side about, they bring it with them, but without that higher realm that basically control or give you guidance on the other side, right? So what happens is they found themselves purely empty. They do not have any purpose. So they have to pick up like climate change. They have to pick up like a social justice issue that they have to believe in and they have to fight it because they have to fill this gap. Because that's, and this is why religion has a purpose. This is why humans, there was always religion in human history since the very beginning, right? That's why it exists. And that's why, I said that before, when I first came out, when I first left Islam, I was against religion, and then I changed my views, and I was angry in the beginning, but then a lot of people didn't leave that anger. As I grew up in my spiritual journey, not tied to a certain religion, but actually my spiritual journey as a human being, connecting with a I would say I call it a larger energy. I don't want to take to a religion like
We're getting into long debate mode here, dude. We're getting
Anyway, let's
we're getting way too existential for me.
We don't have to get existential, but I will.
Here.
Yeah,
wait. Hold on, everybody. Hold on for a second.
You're the captain. Go ahead, captain.
Hold on. I think the thing that we can probably agree on and take away from this is that that 1A is at question here. Our First Amendment right is at question here, and in this fucking country, we have the right to do what we want, say what we want, pursue life, liberty, and happiness, pursue whatever religion we want or don't want. And what we are seeing is a major assault on all kinds of religious views and them being replaced with dogmas, like weird dogmas, whether it's a government dogma, a pharma dogma. Shit, some people just live on a Hollywood dogma completely. That's all they do. All they fucking do. Go to work and watch Netflix. Go to work and watch Netflix. Like, that is their religion. They're trying to make it okay to pick and choose which of these religious classes is going to be the next enemy, and they've been oscillating through these for a long time. But what they really want is for us to all be transhumanist fucking blobs in the future, uploading ourselves into bullshit and walking around wearing these Zuckerberg's Meta glasses and jacking the air off while we're playing with fake lightsabers and stuff, instead of getting out and getting to our beaches and getting some sun and staying healthy and not letting our governments and our Fortune 100 bring us technocratic hell tyranny. I mean, I think that's a fair place to find a meeting point there and not go like full on existential. And I'm sorry to interrupt you there, you guys, and change the topic. It's just I can't do existential dread at midnight tonight on midterm election week.
Fair enough.
Dude. Yeah, I did not want to get there either. It's so
but
good.
Joseph, you were about to jump in there, man. Go ahead.
Well, no, this won't make us descend. Just that and it was just a point about like not wanting religion to be in politics up until kind of real recently, and I don't even know if it's completely gone away. Presidential candidates always used to have to say, and I have a faith in Jesus Christ. Remember, that wasn't that long ago. They always used to have to claim that. Like, I've gone to church, and you knew they didn't half the time. But they always had
claimed it many times.
Yeah, they all have to claim that. Like, that's like part of the deal. Like, you can't go like, you know what? We've never had a presidential candidate that said, you know what? I don't believe in anything. We're just cells drifting around in an empty cosmos. I've never heard a candidate say that. But it definitely seems to be taking a turn, now. So anyway, we can still divert out of this conversation. But
Ruckus, where do we go from here, man? Take us home. I'm gonna have to call it a show pretty soon here. I'm running out of juice, man.
It's on each and every one of y'all to what you believe. You can trust God, or you can trust your government, or you can trust the science, or you can trust whatever you want. So it doesn't have to be three options. Neither does there have to be three options in these political parties. I know some of you folks out there have been paying very close to the race in Nevada for the Senate race. Have you guys been paying attention to the results in the Senate race in Nevada?
Mm-mm.
I
It's
am
all old, last I heard.
absolutely disappointed in you all. I am
I'm ashamed.
It's not cold yet.
I'm very happy to announce in the Senate race for Nevada, currently with 10,861 votes, making up a whopping 1.18% of the votes, is none other than none of these candidates. I'm not making this up. That's what it says.
None of the above.
They literally, people have been writing in somebody or something called none of these candidates. 10,861 people chose nobody. Literally, they voted for nobody.
All right.
I love it. I love that kind of an epic troll. Here's the update for you guys with the governor, Kari Lake. It's still pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be until they let all those ballots come in.
But the thing, the 83%, they're up to 2 million something ballots. We were all looking at this earlier, huh, Hesher, you and me and Spore, and it was 1.84 million of the votes were in just a few hours ago, right? Not that long ago.
Yeah.
So we broke the 2 million in point. So they're showing each just barely over 1 million votes. So that's pretty tight. But I found out the reason, because you guys are asking, why the heck is this taking so slow, right? Who was asking that? Infidel?
I was. Maybe
I found
others.
out the
I'm sure
answer
everybody
for
is.
you, Joseph. I'm so glad it was you asking, because I got to get you back. The reason is it's been confirmed. Arizona election officials say that the ballots are actually being counted by George R.R. Martin. That's right. The report is that hopes for the timely counting of Arizona ballots have hit a snag, as famed author George R.R. Martin has been placed in charge of counting the state's ballots. Just kidding. That's actually coming from the Babylon Bee, of course. But to your point,
Mike sent me that, and the text, he sent me text from the Babylon Bee, and I read them live on air. And then I didn't realize they were a joke until halfway through it. Because I'll read you one. You tell me. It's a joke, and you know that. If you just got it cold and read it on air. U-Haul announced an investment in massive project in California. The state leadership panic over continued population loss subsided. The relief was short-lived, however, as it turned out U-Haul's big project was just building a bullet train to accommodate the moving needs of everyone fleeing California to Texas. I mean, that could be real news. I'm sorry, but there could be a U-Haul bullet train. Why not?
Dude, that's one of the scariest things about Babylon Bee. One really has to know what the Babylon Bee is and be able to spot their logo on that.
Well, there was no logo. He just sent it to me in a text.
Oh, dude, that's not fair, because it's all too close to real.
Dude, thank
Mike
you.
set us up, dude.
Yeah, that was all from Mike. And so I thought it was he was sending me stories he wanted us to cover. And I read it on the break, dude. And there was 3 of them. So I sped read them with 30 seconds left. And then I was heart attack style. And then I was and then I just went into the U-Haul one, and then he hits me another text saying it's satire, dude. I'm
I didn't. He tried. He reads the story, and I thought he was reporting real news, and my brain just couldn't comprehend. And I'm I don't even know where to go with this, dude.
But I landed it I felt like I landed it by owning it.
But to your point, Hesher, where does the parody end and the reality begin? So many of these stories that have been written by the Babylon Bee, we can pull up some satire from a year or two ago, and it's actual news today. It's real news,
Oh, yeah. That happens all the time. I mean, they're saying Fetterman should be a presidential candidate. I mean...
And that's real news. That's not a parody.
That's
real.
not a parody. I mean,
But
Did you see the Babylon Bee article about Fetterman?
no.
which one?
Fetterman realizes American dream of living with parents
Oh,
till
yeah.
you're 50 and then getting a government job.
Yeah, that was one of the ones I read. Actually, I did see
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Well, I got one for you
Yeah.
because this actually is kind
But
of.
again, that one is true. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's also kind of like, yeah, it's hysterical, but it's also literal reality that we're just in. You know. So anyway, go ahead, Ruckus. Sorry.
One more, just so you know, just so we can close it out here soon, Hesher. This is the state of the nation according to Babylon Bee. See if you guys agree. The nation is unsure whether to support a party that runs a brain-damaged candidate or a party that loses to a brain-damaged candidate.
Very true.
Oh man.
Here
That's
we are,
America
folks.
for you.
Here we are.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, here we are. And if
Yeah,
he
me-
runs for president, there we will be, and it's possible, to be honest.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't. Yeah. I guess so, because apparently,
Anything is, dude.
yeah, anything's possible at this point.
He's
We can't
currently
tell-
the senator, you know? I mean,
Yeah. We can't tell the difference between reality and satire at this point. So it's truly that bad. If you lose
Yeah.
that Babylon Bee logo, you might think it's real news.
especially if you're reading it with 30 seconds left before you go
Yeah,
live on
you're
air,
trying
and
to jam
speed,
in, like,
and you're
"Oh,
speed
breaking
reading
news."
through, and you're trying to figure out what your angle is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it can get confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's one for you, Infidel from the Babylon Bee. You'll appreciate this. This has been part of your message tonight. Republican Party staves off red wave.
That's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Oh man, yeah. Well, that's good stuff. Okay, well, I'm burnt, guys. I gotta call it a show, I think, man.
What? It's been only 3 hours.
It's only been 3 hours. I know. God.
It's a long one tonight.
Woohoo. I know. Yeah. Plus,
It's
we.
been a while since I've done one long that long.
Yeah, this is a marathon show, man. You're up late over there on the Eastern.
For those who are keeping count this week, that's 6 hours of Boiler Room in 1 week. And you could take the 3 hours and put it next to the 3 hours, and it would look like 33. I don't know what that means.
Ah,
Ooh.
I also don't know what this means, but I looked over at my clock, my computer's clock that tells me the temperature on the corner of my computer screen, and it said 33 degrees. I took a screenshot
Yeah.
and dropped it in the Discord channel. I'm not making this up.
See, these things just happen. It's not.
what's the
all-
deal with the 33? I'm not familiar with that.
It's a messianic
Oh,
symbology sort of number, right?
It's the
Odd
high
man.
sign that the oligarchies, it's go time.
Illuminati confirmed.
It's Illuminati go time. That's what it
Yeah.
means. It's like,
Right. Now the YouTube algorithm has us repeating the number over and over.
33,
and over
33,
again.
33.
We're all going to start to get weird emails now and invitations to join the Illuminati, and all that
Finally.
stuff.
I've
Yeah.
been waiting for you guys to let me join.
They
I
just
get
hit you up.
invitations pretty often on like Instagram. You know,
I was
you
gonna
click on
say,
it.
yep.
Guy's got like, all these $100 bills in his hands, and then it'll have a picture of a Mason, and it's like a lot of times the skin tone of the Mason guy, he's an old white guy, doesn't match the skin tone of the guy with the money, and it's like, I don't know, it's just crazy what they. And I'm sure a lot of people like actually think it's real and try to get, yeah, sure. How do I join?
I know.
It's like,
I've gotten that one multiple times too. I thought it was so funny the first time I got it. I think I read it on air. I was so tickled by having gotten it.
oh yeah, they got some nice websites too. Like,
Yeah, it's a great little scam they got running there.
You guys want to join an awesome, cool secret society that'll get you somewhere? All you got to do is work your way up to some of these hoity-toity cocktail parties with some rich, famous people, and find the weird person standing off by themselves with their feet standing at like a 90-degree angle, looking all uncomfortable, just standing that way. Go talk to that guy. You're in.
Okay, there you go. A little bit of secret society insider information for you there. All right. Well, let's see here. Let me just go around the room real quick. Joseph Arthur, thank you for joining us here in the Boiler Room. I'll
That's
encourage
fun.
everyone to check
Good to
your
see
show
you.
out on
Thank you,
TNT
mate.
Radio. I'm looking forward to going back and listening to your interview with was his name Michael that sang for the Misfits?
Michael Graves, dude. That's a good one to listen to, not just not a promo on my show thing, but for real. It was a great interview. He speaks on cancel culture in a way that's I haven't really heard anyone be as sensitive about that subject, and the fact that he's the lead singer of the Misfits, the reimagined Misfits. You know, it's profound. It was a good one, so I definitely recommend that for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, you can find him and Ruckus. Ruckus is the co-host over there.
Yeah.
Your very own Ruckus here in the Boiler Room at TNTRadio.live.
He's a superstar over there.
That's right.
I do a few things over there. Not nearly as much as I do over here for ACR, I assure you.
It's getting neck and neck, I bet.
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah, definitely. Spreading ourselves thin, trying to go be able to do it all. Just want to be able to do it all. All right. Well, Joseph, thank you, man. We'll do it again soon.
Man,
I appreciate
thank
you
you.
dropping in after doing your own show. That's awesome, man. You're always welcome. Ruckus, over to you, man. Anything you want to throw out there before we shut this thing down?
Nah, I'm not going to toss any hot potatoes or weird stuff. I'll share a fun platitude that I had stashed on the side in case Joseph called on me during the show. What do you got for positive motivational expressions, Ruckus? Well, I got one. Let your light shine so brightly that others can see their way out of the dark. That was pretty good.
That's good.
All right. There you go. There you go. Good final words. All right. Let's Ruckus out. Thank you, gentlemen. Infidel Pharaoh, over to you. Save rounds. Final thoughts on the way out of this Boiler Room. And thanks for being here tonight and hanging for this extra overdrive visit.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. It was good talking to everybody. And thank you for our listeners out there for listening to the show. I'm back on Twitter. If anybody want to follow me there.
Oh, shit. What's your handle?
It's Infidel Pharaoh, one word. And just give me a follow there.
All right. All right. I'll be in there. Cool, man. All right. Thanks for being here. We'll do it again soon. And everybody check us out on Saturday. You can hear in Infidel Pharaoh's Magic Carpet Ride. Be a mixtape over there happening. I think this Saturday, right, dude?
Yeah.
All right. All right, cool. That's Infidel Pharaoh, everybody. And that leaves us with the Odd Man Out. Odd Man Out. Thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for joining me on TNT earlier today. Really appreciate that. And looking forward to doing both of those again soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's been great to be back. I just want to say quickly, I've seen that Michael Graves guy live like 4 or 5 times. I met him a couple of times, and he's fantastic, man. Like he's not he doesn't try to copy the old Misfits. Even the stuff he did with them didn't sound like Glenn Danzig. It was really good stuff. So and even back in the day when I first met him was probably going about 15 years ago. He was into politics then. He was conservative. Like the only conservative guy in punk that I knew.
Yeah.
I really followed a lot of horror punk. I like that genre. And he was a few years ago, because he made some kind of like stance in public. The whole horror punk genre, all these bands that I know were his friends, because I saw some of those bands tour with him.
Yeah.
You know, they were like, we denounced this guy, and it was like, what? You're a punk rocker. Why are you denouncing? So anyway, that's cool. I'm going to check out that interview. And if anybody wants to check out the show, please do. And _ the Odd Man Out on Twitter and Instagram. It's got all my links in the bios. And I'll say this quickly, Hesher. I have my show for next week already complete, and I'm halfway into another show. So hopefully I'm catching back up.
Nice. Awesome. Yes. All right. Everybody check out the Oddcast, of course. All right, fellas. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight. And thank you, everybody out there, for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, if we don't get canceled on YouTube, we'll wait and see. Wait and see how that goes. But I think it should be all right. Should be all right. But it doesn't matter, because we're on Rockfin, and we know Rockfin kicks ass, and Rockfin has no problem with our First Amendment rights. So that's great. Shout out to Rockfin. Shout out to everybody that follows us over there. If you only watch us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. You got to do the thing. we would appreciate that. I look at the stats. It gets a lot of views from people that haven't taken the time to punch the button. And go on over to Rockfin and look for us over there. Also, you can find the links to all that on our website, alternatecurrentradio.com. And yeah, that's it. We'll see you again next Thursday, folks. Next Thursday, unless something crazy happens, unless something wild happens, like let's say perhaps, I don't know, peaceful protests break out. Mostly peaceful protests, right? Maybe we'll see some mostly peaceful protests. I don't know. We're still at a point here where some of these numbers could flip. There's still hundreds of thousands of somehow uncountable ballots laying around, and people. That's right, Izzy. Subscribe, YouTubers. People on the flip out. People ready to freaking flip out there. It's crazy out there in town. So everybody be chill. Hopefully everything will go all right here, and we'll see you again next week. This is Hesher for everybody in the boiler room. We'll peace out. We'll see you next time.
That's it. Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.